For us, Rwanda cycling is a culture. It's part of our daily life. Simple resiliency, connection, and progress. Cycling has evolved into a formidable movement over the years, largely due to the events like Tour de Rwanda, which most of you know, and other tours worldwide under the UCI Rwanda. Having discussed with the President of African Cycling Confederation, the CAF, I can say that all Africans support Rwanda in hosting this exceptional event, which will undoubtedly have a positive impact on the development of our sport on the continent. Together we say that the first ever must not be the only one on our continent. There must be a post-Kigali. Are we all together? There must be a post-Kigali World Championship on the continent of Africa. Rwanda, Kigali is hosting. It's not going to be the end of Africa and other countries. So please, looking forward to any other place in the next few years for the World Championships of UCI. We extend our sincere gratitude to the government of Rwanda, our partners, and the UCI for their unbearable support. To the all competitive athletes, welcome to our home. Prepare to discover Rwanda, the land of 1,000 years, where the course is going to challenge you. Sure, course is going to challenge you. And you never say anything. Remember, our slogan this year 2025 World Championship is Riding New Heights. So get ready. It's going to be fun and challenging. But beyond the challenge, you discover the warmth of our heart, of our people, and the nation ready to share your pedestal, every pedestal you will have in the next few days ahead. So please, let's have fun, and please, let's clap for these cyclists who are getting ready to conquer the road to the years. Thank you for being part of this historical week. May fair play and good competition guide the races. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Murakoze.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you so much for this kind of thoughtful words. Riding New Heights is our slogan. And now, please join me coming on stage. The driving force behind the growth of sports in Rwanda, the Minister of Sports, Mary Yakazi.
Excellencies, ambassadors, distinguished guests who are here, the people of Rwanda, the people of Kigali, good morning. Bravo. It is my honor to welcome all of you on behalf of the government of Rwanda to this 2025 UCI World Championship, happening for the first time in Africa here in Kigali. a special week where we are going to have the best riders in the world that are going to be riding across our country, Kigali, in the hills and valleys, where they're going to meet the challenge that goes up to 5,400 meters of elevation, the first ever event. This is going to be a course that promises to be both beautiful and challenging. So I'm really honored to say welcome to the 110 nations that have gathered here, around 996 riders that are in this city, and the visitors that have come to join us in this historic moment. Let me tell you something special again about this ride. It is the first time we are going to have the women under 23 road race joining the World Championship. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's happening in Kigali, in Rwanda. This has been a country where, under the leadership of a statesman, His Excellency, the President Paul Kagame, women empowerment and promotion has been part of his exemplary leadership. I mean, who is standing here? This is the woman, and this is the product of our leadership. Let's not. I want also to take a moment to thank you, Monsieur Lacartier, for really making your commitment to bring the World Championship in Africa. We thank you for your leadership. We thank you, UCI team, Rwanda Federation of Cyclists, and all of you, cyclist enthusiasts, for this historical moment. I want also to thank everybody, organizing team, and every man and woman who has been part of this. It is just the beginning, and we are sure that your
Now, the tone has been set. It's time to have our first speaker today to hear from our speakers. And of course, it's my pleasure to introduce someone. Welcome the President of the Rwanda Cycling Federation. Please welcome Mr. Samson Ndashimire.
Amagare, Ramsey. Amagare. Amagare. Ramsey. Excellencies, distinguished guests, members of the UCI family, cycling fans from around the globe, here present, and those following us online. Good morning. Bonjour. Maramutse. Maramutse. This is an amazing moment. I think for not only me, but for all Rwandans. So please, those of you who are here with us in the arena, today we're making history in UCI books, where individual territory is starting in the indoor arena. Please give yourself a warm round of applause. Today marks the landmark moment for our federation, our nation, and the entire African cycling movement, as we officially open the 2025 World World Championship on the continent of Africa, here in Rwanda, in Kigali. Again, big round of applause to you guys and to you. For us in Rwanda, cycling is a culture. It's part of our daily lives. Secret side resiliency, connection, and progress. Cycling has evolved into a formidable movement over the years, largely due to the events like Tour de Rwanda, which all of you know, and other tours worldwide under the UCI calendar. Having discussed with the President of African Cycling Confederation, the CAR, I can say that all African supports Rwanda in hosting this exceptional event, which will undoubtedly have a positive impact on the development of our sport on the continent. Together we say that the festival must not be the only one on our continent. There must be a post-Kigali. Are we all together? There must be a post-Kigali World Championship on the continent of Africa. Rwanda, Kigali is hosting, it's not going to be the end of Africa and other countries. So please, looking forward to any other place in the next few years for the World Championships of UCI. We extend our sincere gratitude to the government of Rwanda, our partners, and the UCI for their unwavering support. To the all competitive athletes, welcome to our home. Prepare to discover Rwanda, the land of 1,000 years, where the course is going to challenge you. Sure, our course is going to challenge you. Thank you. Never say it. Remember, our slogan for this year 2025 Rwanda World Championship is Riding New Heights. So get ready. It's going to be fun and challenging. But beyond the challenge, to discover the walls of our heart, of our people, and the nation ready to cheer you up, pedestal, every pedestal you will have in the next few years ahead. So please, let's have fun, and please, let's clap for these cyclists who are getting ready to conquer the world after the 1,000 years. Thank you for being part of this historical week. May fair play and good competition guide the races. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Murakoze.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you so much for inspiring powerful words. Riding new heights is our slogan. And now, please join me when welcoming on stage the driving force behind the growth of sports in Rwanda, the Minister of Sports, namely Mukazini.
Monsieur David Gargantia, Président de l'Union cycliste internationale, Excellencies Ambassadors, distinguished guests who are here, the people of Rwanda, the people of Kigali, good morning. It is my honor to welcome all of you on behalf of the government of Rwanda to this 2025 UCI World Championship happening for the first time in Africa here in Kigali. This is going to be a special week where we are going to have the best riders in the world that are going to be riding across our country, Kigali, in the hills and valleys, where they're going to meet the challenge that goes up to 5,400 meters of elevation, the first they ever met. This is going to be a course that promises to be both beautiful and challenging. So I'm really honored to say welcome to the 110 nations that have gathered here, around 996 riders that are in this city, and the visitors that have come to join us in this historic moment. Let me tell you something special again about this ride. It is the first time we are going to have the women under 23 road race joining the World Championship. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's happening in Kigali, in Rwanda. This has been a country where, under the leadership of a statesman, His Excellency, the President Paul Kagame, women promotion. Empowerment and promotion has been part of his exemplary leadership. I mean, who is standing here? This is the woman, and this is the product of our leadership. Let's honor. I want also to take a moment to thank you, Monsieur Lagartia, for really making your commitment to bring the World Championship in Africa. We thank you for your leadership. We thank you, UCI team, Rwanda Federation of Cyclists, and all of you cyclist enthusiasts for this historical moment. I want also to thank everybody, organizing team, and every man and woman who has been part of this. It is just the beginning, and we are sure that your commitment to this will continue.
agomba kuza kuba abifite. Navuga ko ari ibyo ngibyo, ndetse prologue y'uyu munsi tukaba tuyishyizeho akadomo mu muhanda, ndetse navuga yuko ibihe byiza biracyafitwe na Ardo, iminota 3 amasegonda 40.
Lining is up to 10 past the hour. So for now, enjoy. Welcome to Africa, and what a privilege it is to say that. It's the 2025 UCI Rwanda World Championships on this amazing continent for the first time in its history. We're in Rwanda, the spectacular Kigali, a place where there has been settlements dating back to 8000 BC. So, about time then, 2025, for us to explore it. And what a treat you have in store, full of history and of course culture as well. We are playing with one of the most amazing places on the planet. They call it the land of 1,000 hills for very good reason, and we're going to be playing with a couple of them today. One on 2 occasions. It's the elite time trial. We'll be starting off with the women's discipline. 31.2 kilometres the course today. And afterwards we'll have a cup of tea. Why not? The plantations brought here by the Germans in the late 1800s, and now very much part of, indeed, the culture of this magnificent place. Women's individual time trial about to get us off and underway, and as with the men's time trial a little bit later on, the first rider off will be the champion of Rwanda. We have Zarine Niere, who will be indeed opening the course for us. There is 460 metres of elevation gain today, and they're compressed into 2 mountains. We take the Col de Nyanza, that's on 2 occasions. First time of asking, 2.5 kilometres at 5.8%, so a bit of a stiff test, you've got to say. Second time of asking, we come from a different direction, on the same course, of course, with 4.1 kilometres, about 3.1%. So it does have its challenges. Then there is the cobbled introduction to the Kimi Hurura, which is our final climb today, 1.3 kilometres, but get this, 6.3%. Goodness me. Grace Brown is, or would have been defending champion, but has decided that retirement is something that indeed became an attractive option for her. So sadly no Grace Brown for us, but Chloe Daggett is here, winner in Glasgow. And this indeed was how things panned out in 2024. While Australia's Grace Brown entering the course, it was of course in Zurich, starting off in Gosso, 29.9 kilometres, so a similar length that we have today, and edging Demi Vollering by 16.79 seconds. Chloe Daggett was also on at the podium for the United States. Then following of the Netherlands taking the silver medal, and of course Grace Brown with the coveted rainbow jersey. So, as you can see, we've got some light cloud here, some describing it as smog. We're at the high end, indeed, of Central Africa here. Equatorial highlands, I think you might say. It's absolutely beautiful. There is very much a tropical feel to it. If you look at the mirror-like reflections of this small local lake here, you can see that there is virtually no wind, and there'll be similar conditions throughout the entire run today. So 27 Celsius, and nothing too much to trouble us. It may well be a landlocked country, but it is so verdant and magnificent, and this is the course that we're going to be dealing with today. Watch out for the dead turn at the bottom before you come all the way back, take on that double-headed mountain for the second time before the cobbles towards the end, and then the run for home. 31.2 kilometres, a proper testing course for the elite women, and we'll be starting.
Take a moment to thank you, Monsieur Lacartien, for really meeting your commitment to bring the World Championship in Africa. We thank you for your leadership. We thank you, UCI team, Rwandan Federation of Cyclism, and all of you cyclist enthusiasts for this historical moment. I want also to thank everybody, organizing team, and every man and woman who has been part of this. It is just a beginning, and we are sure that your commitment to this will continue. A special thanks to our sponsors and partners, without whom this would not have been possible. Let's clap for them. This has been an effort of collaboration, of commitment and dedication of so many players, and we are very, very grateful for that. I want to give a special thank to all of you fans. You're the ones who are going to make this special, as we'll be cheering for the riders across the city, showing them the hospitality of Rwanda, the love of sports, and the commitment we have to continuing this. For Rwanda, hosting this World Championship, it's not only an event, it's a commitment to the future. It's a commitment to the next generations that are going to be part of this sport movement. We believe in sports as a driving force for unity, for
factor, the ability to give everything that you have, finish when you cross the line with nothing left, but make sure you have all the energies to be factored in along the way. First rider to come off the ramp, just getting themselves ready at the moment. The timekeepers are ready. My name is Carlton Kirby, and sitting alongside me is Rebecca Charlton. Rebecca, what a privilege to be here. It's party time.
It is, just because you bring me in, Carlton, I was just about to say what a delight it is to be sat in the commentary box next to you. But look at the scenes here. This is such a special moment. And of course, as you said at the top there, the first time we've seen a UCI World Championships in Africa, in this part of the world. And the celebrations, as you can see, absolutely huge. And for me, seeing a lot of the riders doing their recce's and arriving there in recent days and absorbing this, which of course, pardon the pun, is just ramping up and up and up before the start of the women's elite time trial in just a few minutes' time.
Oh, absolutely wonderful. The mountain gorillas here, very much part of the scene with conservation in the national parks. The party that we've had here inside some of the stadia has been, well, beguiling. Let's put it that way, shall we? Absolutely wrapped full of events. Wonderful nation, has been very much part of the culture for an awful long time. In fact, it's the main mode of transport in many parts of Rwanda. And as a result, everyone absolutely loves the sport. And what better way to show off a nation than to have the UCI World Championships coming here to Africa for the very first time. There is a Tour of Rwanda, of course. It's been well established as part of the UCI calendar for quite some time. And so, Why not just spread the love of this magnificent sport that we adore so much, and indeed just celebrate African involvement. We've had some great African riders as well over the recent decades. Time for us to show it off and go racing with the women's individual time trial.
Yeah, we're very excited for it today, aren't we? For so many reasons. And I think actually, for anyone just tuning in to see the start run for the first time, of course, this is at the centre of a huge arena here. It's indoors that the riders will start off for their time trial. And I think it's just adding to the sense of occasion. And as you said there, with the Tour of Rwanda, the crowds and the support roadside for that are absolutely huge. And this is, of course, anticipated to be even bigger than that. So we're going to see such crowd support, and it means so much to this part of the world, doesn't it? But yeah, it will be Zaverine Nirere who will go off first. And I just can only imagine the moments and whether or not she's going to be able to fully absorb that. But as you said there, of course, she's the national champion for Rwanda in the individual time trial. She took third in the road race as well. So it'll be really interesting to see her take to the start today. And as I say, it means so much around this race as well. It transcends the race, I think, the impact this will have, of course.
It does. About 3 minutes to go. Nervous times, and you can see it. She's had more hugs, I think, than perhaps a sumo wrestler. She is ready to get off and underway. There's so much goodwill. I mean, this is a huge thing. And just listen to this amazing crescendo to get us started.
It's given me goosebumps already, Carlton, honestly.
It's time. Wow, what a responsibility as well, falling on the shoulders of Zaverine Nirere. Primarily competes in Africa, won her nation's Eros Cycling Cup, won a stage and finished overall in the migration gravel race, so she'll be okay with the rough stuff towards the end of her run. Got herself 2 medals in the national championships, won the overall title in the Pipakawis Muga Build Widow Oik Tour in Namibia. And so it is for her to start off this historic week of racing, let's not forget, with the women's elite, individual time, the race of truth against the club. And the truth is, we are just so happy and privileged to be here in your good company, wherever you happen to be watching us. Time then for her to get in the zone and then get out of the BK Stadium into the fresh air and indeed start this run. Oh, magnificent. I do love, I've got to say, the Rwandan national flag. It has the sun rising from the east as part of its design. And it kind of a nation reborn, I think you might say, and it very much feels that way. There's a real youth and vigour about this country, and you're going to see that when they scream her off the line, when the clock indeed counts her in. 30-second mark. Big smile. That's great. Carrying that burden of responsibility. There will be a roar when she leaves this start line and begins her run. 31.2 kilometres to be dealt with as quickly and as efficiently as she possibly can. The honour of starting us off here falls to Zaverine Nirere. Absolutely fabulous. She emerges into the light in front of the hordes that will line our route today. And she takes on what is a historic moment, but also quite a technical introduction to what is a long run of 31.2 kilometres. Now, because of the climbing, we shall wait to see our predictions as far as the length of each of these individual runs. But by the time they finish, they will know that they have been fully tested. Taking it gingerly, of course, at first. Last thing you want is to get yourself unstuck on some of those technical corners. But there's some rises and falls to this course today, some of which are extraordinarily significant. They'll be going off at 3-minute margin. I think the first is a 2.5-minute margin, I beg your pardon. for this run. And here we are, 2 intermediate splits for the women's. The markers will be after 10.6 kilometres at 19, and then for the full 26. So we'll keep tabs. She needs to settle herself in, kind of put behind her the stadium that she's just left, and then start to invoke that thing that time trialists get into, known as the zone.
Absolutely. I absolutely loved the fact that she was allowing herself to enjoy that moment. Quite evidently, she had a smile, didn't she, on that start run? And it's such a historic moment for her, for everybody involved. It's huge. And yeah, I can imagine it's such a fine balance to absorb that moment, but as you say, go straight into that full focus. And yeah, loads to dissect in terms of what lies ahead on the course today.
Yeah.
Very happy because it's my home. It's a big story for my country. Also for me. Yeah, I'm very excited. It's so fun.
What is going to happen here during the week? It's going to be crazy. A lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. Everyone wants to see the Hogi, the World Cup, World Champion. Yeah.
I don't know who handed out the whistles. Hopefully they don't swallow it, because the excitement levels here are very, very high. We have 46 riders, 44 riders, I beg your pardon, from 36 nations competing here. Time for Qatar to start her run. This is Kholoud Al-Kuwari off the ramp and underway. Absolutely spectacular. I love the fact that the World Championships respects all nations, all champions. There will be some great diversions in terms of divergence in terms of the times we achieve at the end, but representing your nation, celebrating cycling, it's what the UCI World Championships are all about.
It really is, and as you say, we are going to see huge differences in times throughout today, but I think something that's really prominent is the difference that we'll see in tech. And actually we saw Xavier Navarre go off with a brilliant setup there, but we'll, in the early riders, of course, see quite a big variation in whether riders have the team support, have the funding for the team to have the full TT setup. Of course, we are going to see a lot of these early riders on their road bike setup, and that's what we'd expect to see. But as you say, the opportunity for these different nations, for riders to go up against the world's best, to gain that experience, to fill the World Championships, is what it's all about. So it'll be interesting to see different technology that we see on the lineup today.
And Yeri, still with 29 kilometres of her run to be taken. Wide open highways at the moment. As you can see, the road surfaces here are absolutely impeccable. They've been looking forward to and preparing for these Road World Championships for such a long time. And this nation, after its troubles, of course, with the genocide in 1994, has rebuilt itself with the care and attention, I think, of the world, really. And the goodwill that has poured onto this nation is absolutely huge. And it just shows you how regeneration and indeed looking towards the future can actually bring an amazing nation, which is what we're dealing with here. Rwanda, I urge you to come and visit. It is spectacularly friendly. And indeed, when you look at the countryside here as well, there is so much for you to enjoy. Today, of course, we're going to be playing with the roads, but we'll have some spectacular shots, and we'll be taking you around Rwanda as well to enjoy. Ethiopia, also noted as a great cycling country as well. We've had some terrific riders come out of Ethiopia. And this is Sir Kalem Watango about to get underway. There's a lot of support has come from all the African nations to make sure that they give their riders an amazing send-off.
Yeah, there really has, and you look at the qualification process for the UCI World Championships, and there are opportunities, as we nodded to before, for riders to have representation, that they are able to have a spot for their nation to line up. And of course, we've known that this is going to be the first time for a little while now that we would see the championships take part in Africa, and so there's been so many of these nations able to prepare to field this. And we've said, time and time again already how special this is. But we've also had the brilliant work of Team Africa Rising, Since 2007, they have been working on the development, originally in Rwanda, known as Team Rwanda Cycling, but it's further expanded in that time to really focus on under 23 junior development so that these young riders are ready to field at this level.
Absolutely. And as you look at Watango from Ethiopia, she is just 23 years of age.
On est arrivé il y a 3 jours avec l'équipe du chrono mixte et voilà, on a
Well,
passé
I've been here and been here for 3 days. Very much looking forward to the mixed TT later on. It's super lovely here. It's everyone's been so kind. We've been out having a ride, exploring, been sweating a lot as well, to be honest. I think it's going to be super demanding, really very hard, and with the altitude and the humidity as well. I believe that it's going to be one of the toughest championship runs of my career. That was Céline Kerbayon, who earned her place at this, her third World Championships after a strong season where she finished 8th overall in the Tour de France, you might remember. She's also French national champion. Earlier in the season, she won the national title for the second time in her career, and yeah, beating her compatriot, Juliette Labousse.
I'm really excited to see Céline Kerbayon in action today,
Yeah.
because I think what we have learned, if nothing else, over the last couple of seasons, is not how well she can climb, but how much she keeps the pressure on descents as well. So keep an eye out for Céline.
There's Monica Kiplagat from Kenya. Do you know what? I think the drumming send-off is getting bigger and bigger as everyone just gets the flavour.
Oh, the anticipation for today has been so high, and it's been a long time coming because, of course, the preparation that goes in, not months ahead, but years ahead in securing the World Championships coming, and then all the preparations that go into that. So you can really sense that, can't you? So
Yeah.
it's come to fruition, it's finally here, and oh, it's exciting times.
Really, really is. I mean, when you look down the roster of nations that are here, this is, if nothing else, at least in the early stages, a massive celebration of cycling itself. I mean, look at the fans at the side of the road and how much respect as well they are giving the riders. This is an unusual thing, of course, for the entire African continent to have such an amazing event come and grace this sport in a heartland, I've got to say, of cycling. Then it's a privilege for us to witness, and of course for the fans to be able to cheer on in this one of the most populous nations, I think, in all of Africa.
Completely, and as you said, we're going to start getting a gauge with our intermediate time checks, aren't we, of who's going to go into the hot seat, who might stay around in that hot seat for quite some time today, because of course sometimes we do see an early rider sit in that position for quite some time, and it was interesting, wasn't it, looking down the start order at who's perhaps going off when. So the reigning champion, of course, Grace Brown, is not fielding this race. It was a really interesting one, wasn't it, that she won so big in so many ways and then said, right, I'm retiring, I'm happy now, I'm off. And many people might or might not have seen that she announced this morning that she is pregnant. So huge congratulations to Grace Brown. And it was such a joyful post because she said, you know, I'm really excited to see a new world champion crowned today, somebody else take this jersey, and it's not going to fit me for much longer, and I'm not going to be able to stay in the time trial position for much longer because I'm having a baby. So huge congratulations to Grace Brown.
Grace, if you're watching, it's been a pleasure to watch you, and best of luck. It's a wonderful time you've got coming. Here is Bokpo Congo from Botswana, off and underway. Yes, she was in the Bebekeri Charity Cycling Challenge, the activation ride. So presumably starting a whole new raft of yet more races, where she got herself a top 10. And as a youngster, this is going to be huge for her. Next up will be Natalia Frolova, one of the individual neutral athletes that will be getting us off and underway. The first benchmark, I think, and possibly somebody that may well find quite a few riders out there, will be Harmani Ahowisu from Benin. One of, I think, not amongst the favourites, but two-time Benin champion, extraordinary. Of all the African riders, I think she's possibly going to be one of the very best. And she lines up with other very strong time trialists. Just completed the Maryland Cycling Classic in Baltimore, so starting to indeed go global as well, which is what this is all about. Bringing yet more African athletes to the pro peloton, be that women's or indeed men's, is very much an aim. This is a sport that celebrates the individual. It also celebrates national pride, and there have been many countries that have actually moved to cycling as a form of national promotion. And you've got to say that Rwanda has done that really well with excellent racing in this country for many years.
Yeah, for a long time now, we've really seen that development, haven't we? And its presence has just been so known on the world stage of cycling, and the amount of work they're putting in to develop this sport. And I think that is what's quite prominent when you look at the early starters today, is that if you do look down their palmares and their list of results, they are a lot sparser, I guess. They're more sparse than we'll see at the pointy end of the action. But as you say, there's a lot of context to that, and we've got a lot of these early riders who've fielded bigger races and not finished them, but gaining that experience is just so crucial to that development, as you say, not only for individuals but for them as an entire nation. So yeah, the levelling up of these riders today, this is a big deal.
Flora coming off the ramp to start her run. These guys' arms are going to start hurting a little bit later on. I mean, can you imagine the impact on those wrists?
I think they've faced so much training. They are already Carlton. But having said that, I mean, talking about measuring efforts today with this course, I think they're going to have to start looking at measuring their effort there with the impact on the arm and wrist area. But no, jokes aside, I think it's going to be really interesting to look at the pacing. Of course, in our sport, we see a lot of short time trials, perhaps part of Grand Tours and multi-stage races. But today, this is a really important measured effort. And you talked about the nature of the climbing and the elevation going today. And in the land of 1,000 hills, it's not a small feat to make sure you pace it on the climbs, but really pivotal to that, when you look at all the elements that we're throwing at riders today, is the fact that they are riding at altitude at 1,500 metres. Also, you're looking at things like the air quality, and actually going into the red too early on the ascent with that pressure, I guess, to recover for the rest of the effort. Pacing is going to be so critical. And again, we'll have riders that have done a lot of full recce's, riders that haven't, people that have climatised, people that have had less time to do that. Also, when we look to the latter part of our field today and our later starters, it's really interesting to look at who's been fielding all the stage races, who's been maybe hiding, coming in a little bit fresher, having perhaps done more altitude training. So I'm really excited to see some of the unknowns answered today, because yeah, pacing is going to be critical in this part of the world.
Well, this is the Volcano National Park, Rwanda's northern province, a place of legend, really, you might say. Mist-covered peaks is what it's all about. The walking and indeed some of the wildlife that you will come across is absolutely outstanding. Take yourself a local guide, by the way, if you are coming to these parts. It's by, I guess, for many European standards and beyond, it is not an expensive endeavour. And if you have a guide, a local guide, you're going to get the very, very best out of your experience. And experience is what we're here for. Tanzania's Jamila Abdullah is next off the ramp. And I swear that these guys are getting into party zone at the moment. I'm actually wondering who it is that they are teeing themselves up to give their biggest send-off to. And I think it's going to be Diana Igabire of Rwanda, who goes off very, very late and may well indeed be one of those that they're going to be screaming for. Yeah, it's a terrific day.
We'll have to see how they're getting on at the early time split, aren't we? Whether
Yes. We are. Well, we've still got some time to go. Last rider will be coming off the ramp at 10 past midday local time. That's the same as Central European time. The latitude, I was explaining to Rebecca this earlier on. There's no,
Thanks, Carl.
there's no time gap if you leave Europe and head due south. There's no jet lag, so, you know, fill your boots. Get to Kigali.
You've answered all my questions now about international travel.
We have two splits along the way. First timing point comes at the top of that more than a little ramp that you just seen. We're riding along here with Kiplinger of Kenya, and just look at the pace here. Perhaps this helicopter shot doesn't show you just how much of a grind this, but it's long, Rebecca. We take on the Côte de Nyanza twice. We do it once from this direction, and then of course we're using both sides of the highway. We do a dead turn at the southernmost tip of our course today, and then we come back and we do it again. First time is 2.5 kilolitres at 5.8%, and you can see by the pace that that really does start to eat in.
Yeah, and I think we so often cannot see from the TV screen just how much the gradient is biting and how much the other elements, like being at altitude to an extent, when you're looking at a course that's this kind of distance, you know, it's longer than a lot of these riders will have contended with in terms of pacing and effort. So yeah, I don't think we can fully appreciate sometimes how much those gradients grind when we're definitely sat in comfy chairs. But yeah, the Côte de Nyanza will be really interesting, as you say, almost at 6% there as an average. And it will be also very telling to see these early riders do that dead turn, because I think that when we are looking at podium places later on today, it's going to be crucial to see how the riders do head towards some of these technical sections, how they do take the dead turn, can they carry any speed through, how much are they going to stay in the skis in TT position, and what gradients might force them out of that, and obviously measuring the aero gains of staying in position versus navigating anything slightly more technical to not lose that pace. And it's such a fine balance, and we've seen, haven't we, some of the best TT riders in the world, in men's and women's cycling, push to the limit to the extent that they crash. And I think it's such a balance, isn't it? It's such a fine line to absolutely push everything you can against the clock, but measure it enough, not only in not going into the red and burning too many matches before that first split, but yeah, there's so many elements to get right, and it sounds so simple, doesn't it? It's the race of truth, you're going against the clock, but when you throw all the elements into the mix, that's why some people are TT specialists and some people never nail it, because you've got to be on that limit without ultimately coming off when you're riding into a winning position.
Very much so. Pedestrian crossing just barried off here. Great respect for the race, and I haven't seen, I mean, it's impeccably clean as well, I've got to say, the course. A little suggestion of some dust at the side of the road here, which is, of course, a time trialist nightmare when you get into a turn. And you can see from the ebbing and bobbing, really, here of our time check, as she sets her intermediate at 19:10. That's our first benchmark, first checkpoint for us today. So 20 minutes into the run, and having done that rather hellish grinding climb, a little bit of respite. I always think it's unkind when you get through a timing check and then you have to carry on climbing beyond it on a course such as this. Potapova is next to come off the line for Kazakhstan, a place where I've enjoyed the Asian Games and indeed plenty of others. Kazakhstan very much part of the forefront of cycling sponsorship as a nation. Familiar colours, of course, from Astana, the name of not only the team but also the capital of that great nation. And I guess colour scheme wise, pretty similar to the national colours of Rwanda as well, so maybe extra cheer, I think, as well, as she gets off and underway. Now, humidity today is quite high. We are, of course, in the tropics, reminded of the ever-present, there's a silverback there. I've been called that myself in the past, but anyway, I'm more kindly. actually they are extraordinarily gentle creatures, and if you actually get to go to the national park here, and we'll be having another little look at that perhaps later on. Yeah, it's spectacular. You can actually get extraordinarily close to, indeed, the gorillas. Guided, of course, I'll let you know. But yeah, part of the conservation program, which has seen the mountain gorillas extend in terms of their population. And the Big Five as well in some of the national parks, including the Big Five are, I didn't know these were the Big Fives. I knew elephants, yes, zebras, giraffes, rhino, of course, and then buffaloes. I don't know, but anyway, yeah, apparently it's part of the Big Five. But anyway, the Big Five here at the Akagera National Park, they have, I've got to tell you, just that they have raised 70 southern white rhinos. So yeah, they know a thing or two about conservation in these parts. It's absolutely spectacular. This is the King's Palace, the museum at Nyanza. This place, there was an original settlement, would you believe, that's been found that dated back to 8000 BC. Now, it was nomadic peoples, but the King's Palace, when the kingdom was established of Rwanda, looked something like this, and it's been recreated, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is essentially, I believe, pandanus leaves, which are indeed sewn together, hung upon indeed poles, and then assembled into this amazing palace. I mean, look at it. It's absolutely stunning. The Royal Palace of Nyanza, the King's Palace Museum is here. So you can kind of get a look back into what life was like back in the day. They continue. This is Kenya's Kendra Tabo coming off the ramp. I'm just actually looking at, you know, you actually look at some of the dates of birth here, and I start to think, gosh, I can remember what I was doing then, and it didn't seem that long ago.
I'm absolutely with you, Carlton. When I was looking down all the dates of birth for our start list today, I was thinking, hang on a minute, because of course we talked about the fact that we've had so many development riders coming in today, and those dates of birth are shocking to me.
Yes, exactly. Well, that just shows you how long in the tooth we are, and how youthful and exuberant these athletes are. Frolova is busy eating into the 2.5 minute athletes. No surprise, really, this individual neutral athlete, Natalia Frolova. She's got a palmares about her, and clearly the strongest of our early starters, so we'll see what her benchmark is. I think that will give us a real measure of how we go on from here. 16.7 kilometres from home for Zavri Nirere. I think she would like to get home without anyone having passed her, and I think she's possibly going to do that. Frolova might have her within her sights, but the starting time between the pair of them was 13 minutes, so it's a lot of ground to make up. But then again, I'm actually thinking I wouldn't be surprised by some of the athletes here sort of nudging up towards the 50-minute mark by the time they complete today. It's a tough course.
It's really tough, and we could see that, couldn't we, as we saw that gradient increase, just how sapping it is in so many ways. And it is about measuring that effort, as we've touched upon. But we are going to see big time gaps today. We are going to see big discrepancies in this field, and it will be really interesting to see who we have in that early hot seat. But I do agree. I think Nirere should go into that. We'll be able to get some more information as we go, and I think it'll also be really interesting to get sighting of all the points that these riders have been talking about. That dead turn, the cobbles, everything they've got to contend with today. We'll have an idea in a moment.
Well, here is Hamani Ahowisu of Benin getting herself off and underway. One of the strongest time trialists in Africa. She's done a lot of work. It was she that took part in the Maryland Cycling Classic in Baltimore, and when you know that, you realise just how global indeed the reach of cycling is, and it's fantastic that she's off and underway. Meanwhile, riding with Frolova, I think we'll possibly be staying with her for quite some time. because this, I imagine, will be our give us a genuine sense of how this course is starting to run. Aurelia Albox of Mauritius is also one to watch out for. Anna van der Breggen comes off reasonably early. She's about midway through our entire roster. She'll be off the ramp in about probably half an hour's time, something like that. And when she gets underway, I imagine that at that point we're going to see just how wearing this course is going to be for some of the favourites who will, of course, come later. We'll be finishing off with Debbie Vollering at the end today. When you have a degree of humidity as well, and it is described as a dry season, this, so it's not as heavy as you might think, but for some Europeans, they're very much feeling it because there is a tropical sense to the ambience here, and that can have a wearing effect to those who are not used to it.
Completely, and you've seen different responses just across social media and interviews pre-race from different riders saying, oh, I was really worried that the humidity would be huge and it would be a major factor. But actually, they've said, oh, it's not as bad as we thought. We've got here other riders have suffered more as they've sort of acclimatised in the last few days. So I guess it goes down to the fact that athletes are humans and from different parts of the world and have done different preparations coming in, and conditions are going to affect people differently. But yeah, I think some riders have certainly, Platt was saying yesterday that it wasn't perhaps as significant as they thought, but when you come in on the morning and you see what the ultimate temperature is going to be, how the air quality is feeling, how you're adapting to that altitude, there's so many elements at play. But yeah, definitely an interesting one here in Africa.
Paladin of Italy about to get us started. This is Soraya about to take to the ramp, and more Europeans are now going to start to reveal themselves as far as this course is concerned. She's had a pretty good run, the 32-year-old, a veteran status, I think you might say. Some of her results this year have just been ebbing a little bit. She was 6th in the national road race of Italy. But she has achieved an awful lot. Second in the Navarra Women's Elite Classic behind Kat Ferguson, actually, at Movistar. So Paladin can actually pull it out of the bag on occasion. I wouldn't say that time trialling is possibly her specialism, but that means that if you're more of a classic rider, of which I think you could possibly say that she is. She won the Giro della Marche in Rosa to announce herself, really, about 6 or 8 years ago. But also, 3 times she's finished in the top 5 in the Amstel Gold Race. That gives you a sense of the sort of classic nature that has attracted some riders. It's actually put a few off as well, I must say. Some of the pure time trialists have said this is too tough for them and haven't made the trip. But it's opened it up. There's a wider field of riders who can actually achieve here.
Yeah, it's a really exciting day. I do truly believe that because, yeah, it's a very interesting mixed field, and I think, as you say, there is disappointment in some of the riders that we aren't going to see fielding the TT in the men's and the women's today. And of course we want all of our big names in attendance, but some have decided they're not going to do the travel, make the journey to Rwanda because the course simply doesn't suit them, and they don't think they're in with a shot of a significant result. So there's a lot of people absent, but having said that, there's a lot of people here that can do some really big damage today, and I'm excited to see that. Yeah, Soraya Paladin, such an experienced rider. And also just looking at her individual results, I'd say you've got to temper that with the fact that she's done so much work as a teammate this season, and crashing out of the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift. Yeah, it's immensely impressive how quickly we see riders come back, isn't it?
I'm always stunned by it.
And I do talk about it a lot because I don't think you can get away from the fact. Firstly, how are they superhuman superheroes? But also, yeah, I don't think we can shout about it enough, that element of riders coming back to huge form so soon after a broken bone.
You want a specialist? Huao Zhang is one of those. National road race champion last year, and 4th in the nationals as far as time trialling is concerned. She can go very, very strongly, and I'm suspecting that this actually will be a bit of a screeching performance early on, because she's not afraid to go very deep, very early actually. Some riders are attack-minded, but they get themselves up to that pitch and are able to hold it. Others, because they know that they're quite peaky, need to keep something back and rise up towards the end of a course. And it just comes down to your own sense of your own survivability on this kind of course.
Completely, and it goes back to the way we've watched some of the best TT specialists in the world measure an effort and win, doesn't it? Because actually you might look at time splits and think you can predict who's got it, but we've seen very experienced riders get it wrong and fall apart. We've seen people going for our records and get it wrong. So it's the people that get it right, just to state the obvious, and it's really, really important.
The Akagera National Park, located in Rwanda's eastern province, stands as a powerful symbol of conservation and success. This is what I was telling you about, the big five. Well, they're here, and of course, most of them, of course, will be visiting the waterhole a little bit later on. Giraffes. Do you know, I actually love giraffes. And I've always thought, gosh, they look like such gentle, graceful creatures.
So gorgeous.
Don't mess with a giraffe, that's all I'm telling you. Whereas buffaloes, you're thinking they look a bit scary, and they're just lovely. Elephants, somewhere in between. You get a grumpy elephant, and you're going to be in trouble, but an awful lot of them are just spectacular, majestic.
Come face to face with a grumpy elephant and put that on the bucket list.
Meanwhile, baboons, grapes. Don't eat grapes anywhere near a baboon.
Really?
Oh.
I've learned a lot already today.
They love grapes. They will have you for grapes. Yeah, a baboon's favourite thing. Is your hippo. Doesn't like the stalks getting too much. Once the ticks are gone, all you're doing is pecking the hippo. You don't want that. And lions, can I just say, steer clear, stay in the car. That's all I'm saying. You get the idea.
Picking up some top advice today. Not just gear ratios,
No.
but who to avoid.
Yeah, and indeed, what not to eat near a baboon.
Yeah. Which is important to know, arguably.
Oh dear, you can see how tough this day is. Even amongst the very best, those who can go deep, like Tanzania's Abdullah, are just finding out how hard this is today. A sense that the camera is upon her as well, doesn't want any distractions. Meanwhile, there's plenty. Look at this.
Look at these crowds. This is what it's all about. Wow. For so many riders today is absorbing this level of experience. Up on the clock against the best World Tour riders, the best professionals in the world, gaining the experience of a race of this scale. You can't say enough how significant that is. Irere here, of course, our first rider off this morning for Rwanda, Rwandan national TT champion, pretty handy in the road race as well. And I think she'll be able to absorb this as well as putting in the level of concentration and effort, but you can see the difference in riding style. You can see how sapped some riders are already on this course. And I think it goes back to what we were saying before about the riders that are more specialists in the TT discipline, people that drill their effort day in, day out, do wind tunnel testing, test their kit extensively, have the absolute best setup. You know, there is a huge discrepancy in our sport, and indeed today with different nations, with different levels of support coming in today. But some riders know exactly what it takes to go from a recon to competition. Other riders haven't got that level of experience, have they? That they know how to best deal with that pressure, how it's going to feel going from doing that rather more comfortable recon to going into today on race day. So we're seeing some riders that perhaps won't get that perfectly right in terms of measured effort, but we're just going to see some absolute fireworks as we go through today.
This is Lola Al-Mari. Just, oh gosh, trembling. Fantastic. It just shows you the weight of expectations that some have. This will, for some riders, be the biggest stage they've ever performed upon.
Completely. And that's why it matters, that's why it's important, because until you go out and you do this, and you yeah, do it in this level of a real scenario. You're not going to have that under your belt. So that's why we've seen this part of the world doing so much cycling development, and it's just getting better and better and better, and it's really, really important. Now, I know a moment ago we were just talking about how effectively riders come back from crashes, from injury. I mean, we've seen it so prominently, haven't we, in recent years, with the best riders in our sport being taken out with huge detrimental effects, huge injuries, but coming back so quickly. And I don't know about you, Carlton, but sometimes I have to go back and check myself on when was it that they had that accident, incident, race scenario, because it is seemingly like the blink of an eye that they're not only back in the peloton, but they're back to winning. And so we were talking about Soraya Paladin, who's of course started her TT effort today, and she broke her collarbone in that crash in the Tour de France Femme. At stage 7, she had to retire from the race. And it'd be really interesting to see how that recovery's gone for her and how she goes today as quite an early starter.
Do you know what? I did my collarbone, compression fracture of my right collarbone in 2016. I still haven't got over it. That was a long time ago.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at the fact that you're not over a significant injury, but it's when riders at world level are experiencing these injuries, it's just such a different, obviously it's a different process, but in terms of the medical attention of the bigger riders, it's so crucial, isn't it? Because they're straight into an assessment. Do we need to do surgery? I presume when you and I break a bone, we don't go straight into the option of patching us up back to full form within a couple of weeks. And you know, you're often told your recovery time, aren't you, around 6 weeks perhaps minimum for a broken bone. But riders are back so fast because a lot of them do have the expert team of medical experts around them to get them back so fast. But sometimes we do see people come back too quickly and then suffer along the line a couple of seasons later. So it is important to get it right. But I am sorry that you took the collarbone.
Sounds like it's about rest time. Kiran Abra is next for Ethiopia. We will have Norway's Ugset after that. Miran Gulise from Mauritius, followed by Marta Hussens from Belgium. So yeah, you can see it's a sort of proper global mix that we have. Patapova we are riding with at the moment, just to give you an update on some of our checkpoints. Timing, it is Frolova that has set the benchmark at the first timing point. She's been through there in a 19:10, same time actually as Nerere, so they are actually tied. I'm not quite sure because it's actually gone to the thousands, that those two timings. So I'm imagining that possibly one of them has gone faster than the other. But for the time being at least, Frolova and Nerere are issued with at the exact same time of 19:10.77. Not quite sure that is even possible, to be honest. But anyway, they'll get separated a little bit later on if they're riding the same transponder. Watango is a further 18 seconds down, and then it really does fall away. Kiplagat trailing by 3 minutes at the first timing point, and you're going to see some very big gaps. They will start to compress a little bit later on, so don't worry too much about that. This is going to be a well fought for course, and as you can see, Nerere is actually coming to the second checkpoint. In fact, she has been through it at a 32.33. Watango nearest to her, but giving away 47 seconds as it stands at the moment. So half an hour into the run, 39 minutes in fact for Nerere. We did say that don't be surprised if we start to see some riders nudging up to the 45-minute plus marker. But we'll get our first benchmark. I think some quick times today will be able to give you a better assessment of what we're expecting once we get the opening times through. A little bit of a hint there of the rainbow bands, as you can see, but only in reflection at the moment, as we have our start house here at the BK Arena. And next off is Sigrid Uterhus Ugset of Norway. Gosh, we've actually nudged up towards the Arctic Circle. We're back down, indeed, probably the longest trip actually. We're now back down all the way here at the tropics. The equator almost, essentially. She comes from Burkak, and that is nudging up towards the Arctic Circle. That's a change of environment.
For sure, and we're starting to get into the part of today's field of starters in this race. We're getting some really familiar names that we've seen plenty of action throughout the Women's World Tour season this year. And going back to a rider you mentioned a moment ago, Anna van der Breggen, she will be going off in a few riders' time, just actually after Tennille Campbell, who I'm excited also to see back in this field today. But yeah, we're going to start to see some names that could be pretty big contenders for getting a firm seat in that hot seat.
Well, just look at this. By the way, that, I believe, is the central market. It is. It's the Kiloronko market. Now, not only for you, is it lively, as you can hear, fantastic. Do you know what you can get here? Batik shirts. I'll show you mine later. Yeah, it is spectacular. I actually once went to a market such as this. It was actually in Timbuktu. And I said, I want the full costume, please, because they actually made it by hand. Here we are, there we are. These amazing. So full costume, please. And they said none of them are for sale. I said, what do you mean? He said they're commissioned by families, and you can only have them if. I said, what's the lead-in time? He said 6 years. And then one of the guys comes and he says, there is one actually. We haven't seen the family for 10 years, and so we think we can let it go. And anyway, if you ever want a fancy dress party, I've got the kit. Welcome the king. Anyway, right now we are dealing with, I've been around a bit, we are dealing with, from Mauritius. This is going to be very effective. I love the kit, I've got to say. So, it is Aurelie Aouas, reigning time trial champion from the African Games. That is proper. So as you can hear, we are getting rather excited. And even the start, look at this, taking every single one of those curves with exactly the right apex. You know, experience brings you an awful lot, but the line, without having to overcorrect, is actually a big thing. You can, essentially, you shorten the distance by taking the absolute correct line, but getting that and mastering it at pace is a difficult task.
Yeah, exactly, and it goes back to the point we were talking about before in terms of doing recons, but then racing at this level and doing it with the pressure in front of the crowd, with the conditions on the day, with so many unknowns against the best riders in the world. It's another thing to get that right, and yeah, it goes back to the fact that we have seen people get it wrong at the highest level, going for the top 3 podium places.
Check this out. Cobbles, you're kidding me. This late on? No, we're not. It is a proper test late on. Now just start looking at elbows, wrists, and you'll kind of see what the impact is. That's essentially the body's shock absorbers. And this is not a pleasant environment to be in. It's great for us. 1.3 kilometres, 6.3%. So not only cobbles, but a climb as well. You're going to know you have been under pressure. Look at that, 11% as a maximum, 6.3 average over the 1,300 metres. And the most difficult part, and you can see it, the way the buildings are indented into the side of the road here. What a tough way to finish.
This is such an interesting course, and we talked about it earlier on in the programme, didn't we? But now we are seeing the reality of it. You can see what this is taking, the toll it is putting through the body for Nerere here. And yeah, as you say, this is over 6% average, which we're really seeing now. It's heightening up to 11%. The Côte de Kimihurura, and it's cobbled. You know, it's not just the gradient. You can't just look on paper at the elevation gain today. It's cobbles, it's an ascent, it's dead turns, and we're seeing it all at play now.
Absolutely magnificent. And it goes on. This is Houston's. Well, they're coming thick and fast. Marto Houston's off the ramp and starts her course, and as you can see, fully dialed in right from the very beginning. I'm not saying that there's any disrespect to anyone who has already started. It's just that right now you're starting to approach near specialists, and then we will have very much specialists coming on a little bit later on. Nireri is doing a fantastic job. This is the biggest day of her cycling career, dare I say it. It doesn't matter what you've done before, if you're representing your nation at your home World Championships for the first time in Africa, this is magnificent.
It's huge for Nireri in every sense of it, and we're just keeping an eagle eye on this road surface, aren't we? I'm sure she is just desperate to get to the end of this cobbled section now. But she's the national TT champion, isn't she? And she is first off the ramp for Rwanda today at this level of World Championships. It just couldn't be more to her. We saw a smile, for anyone that might have missed that in the coverage earlier, we saw a smile on that start ramp, an acceptance, an acknowledgement of every bit of support, attention and magnitude that was there for this rider. And yeah, she's within the last 2K now.
Paladin dominating the opening intermediate, as you can see, for Italy. That really is almost a turnaround, I think you might say. We're seeing a gap of about 40 seconds for Paladin, 37 seconds, I beg your pardon, over for Lova. Nireri, though, she did a phenomenal job at that point. I'm still suspicious about exactly the same time between Ferrer and Nireri, but we'll have a real time at the end. And Nireri is about to just crest this. She's only 1,500 metres away from the finish, but look at this grind. The cobbles haven't stopped.
Yeah, and we see it. We're just seeing how long this section is. And again, I think, you know, we can all, the riders, team managers, we can look on paper, but until you've done the full recon, until you've done race day, you know, this is a long section to contend with. And people would have looked at so many technical elements today in terms of their setup. Tyre pressure is going to be something people are looking at for this segment. And the setup, how often can you stay in the skis in the full TT position? And you can see Nireri here just contending with these cobbles and on the lower setup of the bars.
Well, we did say between 45 and 50 minutes for some of the riders here, and this is going to be a decent time actually by Nireri. But I'm actually looking at the shockwaves which are going through her body at the moment. She is not relenting at all. She's still got 1,200 metres to go. This does ease up a little bit. She'll get back to regular asphalt in a few moments' time. But I actually fear for some of the cobbles here, I'm not quite sure how well used this road is. If it's newer, it's worse because some of the cobbles will be sharper on the sides. Can you imagine the heartbreak of getting a puncture late on some of that surface? Finally, she sees the Flamme Rouge, and her day is about to draw to a close. And we will offer up our own applause for what has been a fantastic run for her. Into the barrier section right now, a couple of curves to take, and then she will draw her run at this opening elite women's time trial to a close. And I've got to say, chapeau to her.
Chapeau, she's done a brilliant ride. She's back into that TT position. She's back on smooth tarmac off of that cobbled segment. And she's got 600, well, she's coming up to 500 metres to go here. And this is a big, big moment. And what a ride she's put in today. Look how smooth this is coming in.
Do you know what? I am proud of her and what she has produced today. This has been as brave as you like. And it is a very good time as well. This is our first benchmark. We said 50 minutes. Could she bust it? That would be lovely. She's on a 49.8 now. Just watch that clock. She'll be heading to the line. Slightly indented on the right foot. Nothing wrong with that. I have slightly indented left foot. You know, I find it comfortable. She has been through hell, however, to get to this point. Nireri about to stop the clock. It will be the first time on this first elite race of these World Championships, the first time in Africa. Can she beat 50 minutes? That's what we want. Just coming up to the crest right now. We've got a foreshortening camera here. It's a grind to the line. Come on, Nireri. This is brilliant. Bring it home. Do it for Africa, and most importantly, do it for this magnificent nation of Rwanda. We're all filming her. We're cheering her on. About the last 100 metres, it's going to be just outside the 50-minute mark. But what a proud moment for her. A great day for Africa, and a spectacular moment as well for all fans of cycling globally. 50.07. That was impressive.
What a moment for Nerere, and this rider will now go into the hot seat. She started off all smiles, looking quite measured and relaxed, but then gritted teeth all the way to the line there. This is huge for her, for Rwanda, for everybody watching today. Let's just see the reaction. First rider off into that hot seat now.
Average pace today, 37.3 kilometres per hour. She produced a 50.0767. That is the target time. We're having a workout what we thought the average pace would be today and what sort of time we might get at the distance. I think the first thing we said was 50 minutes, and then we thought maybe 45. Let us wait and see. And I think a lot of the field are going to be in that window, aren't they?
Yeah, we are getting, we come in, don't we, to every race, so we want all the answers, we're going to predict it, how's it going to play out. But do you know what answer I think I've just taken from that? Is that I think we, and maybe some of the riders, underestimated that final segment. Because actually, it's, even for us sat here in comfortable chairs, that felt like a long drag through that cobbled part of the race. And even when it smoothed out and she was coming into the closing meters, that was a big slog, that was a big effort, and we marked how brilliant that ride was. But it took some doing to really measure that to the line, and I think that that's in part been underestimated perhaps about today's course.
That final crest, I mean, it is hellish. The grind to get over the line, the only respite you get appears to be the last 50 metres. She practically fell over the line there.
Oh my goodness, and yeah, it was really interesting to see again predictions on how much the riders would be able to hold position, and she was certainly out of that, wasn't she, to just make sure that she could just maintain as much smooth power as possible across that cobbled sections. Here's Marta Goossens here, and we talked about a discrepancy happening through the field today. Look how smooth she is in the TT position.
Isn't this an absolutely beautiful building based on a big hive? And it's just absolutely spectacular. It fits the landscape perfectly. Whoever was the architect, then we take our hats off to you. That is amazing. Yao Zhang has set the benchmark at the first split, by the way. And it is a strong one through that first timing point, 34 seconds better than the field. She has 1 minute and 12 over Nerere, who has already finished. So yeah, we are starting to see some big trims of indeed times throughout there. And Yao Zhang, who looked very purposeful, I think we described her for the first couple of corners that the Chinese athlete took. She was fully dialed in, quite clearly.
Yeah, completely. And you can start to see the people that have had the support around them to put in the work it takes to be in this position. And I think it's, again, it's one thing doing some amount of testing, getting your position dialed, but actually being able to secure the best time possible in this duration of a time trial. You have got to find that balance, haven't you? You know, you can't be in a super extreme position that ends up being detrimental and that you can't get the full power out. So as we go up the field here, you're starting to see riders that are so familiar with doing TT drills, with being in that testing position, and they've got it home, and it's so evident, and you can see there with Marta Goossens just how well drilled she is.
It's going to be interesting, that final test actually, and how much it starts to impact. I think there'll be a few riders that will be thinking about climbing off just at the very last. You can't do it. It's the last bit. You have to get there. There was a bit of a roller coaster. You come off up over the cobbled section. You actually go into a little dish and indeed finish on an uphill lip before that very, very, very little bit of respite. Here's Tanya Campbell from Trinidad and Tobago. They produced some spectacular track riders in the past of Trinidad and Tobago, and I always love watching them.
I love Tanya Campbell. She is an absolute joy to interview, a joy for our sport. Here she is now, taking to that start round, and she will be so focused today. She is another rider that has not only impressed as an individual, but it's transcended that. She has done so much for the cycling community in Trinidad and Tobago, coming into the World Tour, representing, having so many injuries, setbacks, bad luck, missing out on big targets, and she's always just had her heart on her sleeve and said what it means to just represent at this level, and I love her. I think she's brilliant. What a role model.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, why not? If the World Championships can come here to Africa, and we've seen, of course, Asia starting to rise as a powerhouse, and, you know, why not the West Indies? That would be fantastic. Imagine Trinidad and Tobago. I'm putting the bid in right now.
Here she is, Anna van der Breggen. I am very excited, as you can tell by the buzz in my voice. I cannot wait to see her out there today. We know how well she can time trial. But for me, this season has just delighted in terms of cycling fans getting treated to so many new narratives. When I saw, I don't think it was even speculation, I think it was a sudden announcement, Anna is coming back to World Tour Peloton, having been a DS. And I was like, hang on, please tell me this is true. Because it was so exciting to have the news that she was going to come back in, and the level she's come back in at, having been away from professional racing, is just so staggering. And this is her discipline.
Yeah,
so I'm excited, and yeah,
former world champion, of course.
That was Soraya Paladin for now. I'll park my excitement about Anna for a moment, but we'll get to that. But Soraya Paladin crashed out of the Tour de France fam avec Swift with a broken collarbone, and then she's back to this peak performance today. So it's really worth noting where she's had to come from in preparation. But here's Anna van der Breggen.
Well, we've seen her on the track, we've seen her on the road. We have seen her just about everywhere. Twice a world road race champion, let's remind ourselves. But when you look at the roster, she won Flanders, she won Strade Bianche, Amstel Gold Race. I mean, it's actually easier to say things that she hasn't won. Well, she's won our hearts as well. 35 years of age now. She has moved around the world of cycling, let's put it that way, but she has come back to, well, a moment right now which could prove for this veteran, she's 35 years of age now, something amazing. Let's see how she goes, shall we?
I'm really, really excited to see how she goes today. It's
almost in a sense that she's got nothing to prove, and because of that, I think she'll do something spectacular.
Yeah, and just if you just watch exactly that, if you just watch her level of expertise, she is textbook when it comes to riding a time trial. We've seen her win so big in Grand Tours, stage races, where she's been able to solo to victory, and she's one of those riders where you think, okay, maybe she's forcing a break here, okay, no, she's gone solo, oh, she's gone very early, okay, she's still solo like 50 kilometres later. She is a rider that can do this and can deliver solo, and so she's immensely exciting to watch in her technicality, the years of experience she brings today.
Well, 5 medals in the time trial, let's not forget, for Van der Breggen. But also the title, that was in Imola in 2020. So, you know, I think a couple of times she's been national champion as well in the discipline. So, why not today? Can you imagine the story? What a story would that be?
She's won it all, and
if she medals again, that would just be...
Yeah, and the story will be spectacular because of, as I say, the narrative coming into this season with people saying, well, let's just watch what she's capable of doing, because we all know that not having the race days in your legs, it impacts even the best riders in the world. Of course it does. She was a director sportive very successfully for Team SD Works Proton for a number of years before deciding to come back to racing. You've got to assume a big part of that was knowing that the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift is now on the calendar. It's now possible to field that for the women's peloton, which has been another huge, huge pivotal moment for our sport, a big talking point. But she is back, and she's not just back, she is back at the very top end. So that will be immensely exciting. But here we go, another big name today.
Niewiadoma. Off the ramp for Poland, a nation that always punches above its weight, be that on the track, and particularly when it matters. You get to pivotal moments, Be that, as I say, something like the Olympics or indeed these World Championships. And Poland always seem to be able to punch above expectations. Niewiadoma, though, is somebody we expect a lot from. And I guess in a mixed course, she might be able to surprise even more. We talk about time trials, pure time trials, and you talk about those who are more adaptable, perhaps. I think that's why Van der Breggen, we're expecting a lot from her, as we just ride here with Soraya Paladin, who is absolutely eating up the opposition out there. She is finding riders left, right and centre. She is dominating the time checks at the moment. She's the fastest by a margin of 48 seconds at the second split. Jenga coming through here as well. So we are starting to see some spectacular performances throughout the entire run, and Paladin leading and comfortable. What about Van der Breggen? Classical time trialling. She has a little bit of lateral movement, but it's where she feels comfortable, and sometimes finding that comfort on a bike is more important than aero purity. I've seen a lot of riders actually go into tunnels and they've been put into the perfect position.
Yeah.
And because they're uncomfortable, they actually generate less power and are less effective, bizarrely. You have to find some comfort.
Completely, and I think a really prime example of that is when we saw the peak of the battle between Anna van der Breggen and Annemiek van Vleuten. Everybody used to talk about their positioning on the bike because you could look at Anna, her face, her demeanour, her body language. She always looked so calm. Annemiek would have a much more animated style, look like she was throwing it around, and then you'd never be able to tell who was going to take it out of the two of them because their stance on a bike was so different, but they were both able to win Grand Tours, go solo, do the big mountains. You know, they had the capability to go head to head in that with two completely different styles. So if you were to say to Annemiek van Vleuten, okay, so try and position yourself more like Anna van der Breggen, well, that wouldn't work for her. And I think it also, well, yes, it wouldn't have gone down well because they were both the best in the world, so you wouldn't need to alter their position. But that's another thing. It's easy for onlookers to say, oh, I think they're slightly toe down or they're heel out, or I would correct that. But if it's working for them, they don't need to correct that. They've done so much testing with the team to see where they need to be, and they've got it drilled, they've got it right, it works for them.
Fronova, despite sharing the early intermediate split with Nirere, the difference between them at the third checkpoint was 10 seconds, and the fade has continued throughout the run, I'm afraid, which actually all it does is underscore what a spectacular leader we have of this race, probably spurred on by national pride, Nirere. But Fronova, I'm afraid, is going to find herself way down, and that hot seat, which looks very comfy, I must admit.
This is our first sighting of the actual hot seat, isn't it? With Nirere in there, you can just see her sort of already, just her hands over her face, like, because it's such a hard place to be, isn't it? It's a joyful place to go into the hot seat, but you want to stay there for as long as possible, just to state the obvious. And yeah, but this just goes to show how important that pacing is today.
And what Nirere did, I mean, she's hiding her smile because she's a modest person and doesn't want to be seen to be celebrating. I guess almost the failure of others. Exactly.
I wouldn't be hiding it. No, I take that, and it's really interesting, isn't it, to see the array of emotions when someone has gone into that pole position. They are sat in that hot seat, and we get to see them watching every rider take off around the course who is going to beat them, who's got to better the time, and it's a really interesting element of time trials, because sometimes we do see an incredibly strong rider go off early, and then they are there with bated breath for so long, but we have some incredibly fast riders out on the course. Here's Marta Giesens at the moment for Belgium, and just look at the speed, and I've been really trying to squint in at the setup and the gearing of some of these riders to be more recent starters, because we know how much pressure and power can be potentially retained on the descents. So that's going to have been a really big balancing point for teams and riders coming into today, looking at the tech on the bike, looking at the gear ratios, whether they go for 1 or 2 at the front, is because not only have you got the gradients, but you can potentially still at the least maintain or gain on some of those power descents?
This is Werner Bregan, just coming through it'll be our initial checkpoint along the way, still with an awful long way to go, but this should be a mighty trim, one can only imagine. Let's wait and see. We've seen some strong performances out there. Shang and Paladin seem to be measuring themselves against each other, waiting for the third timing checkpoint for both of them. But I think we're going to be starting to nudge down closer towards 45 minutes by the end. At the moment, Nerere has a finish time that was absolutely spectacular, over a minute clear of Frolova. Watango has also finished, nudging up towards the 2-minute mark. Kiplagat coming home 7 minutes and 47 further away from Nerere, which shows you what Nerere has managed to pull out for this course. A course I am absolutely certain she has probably spent an awful lot of time practicing. And there's no shame in that. I imagine.
Absolutely.
I imagine the authorities have given her several runs on closed roads to make sure that she produces a good time. But she's lived up to the billing. It's all very well starting off as favourite, but you have to get into that spotlight and accept the burden.
I've just distracted them for a moment because we just had sight of Marta Goosens there, and we were talking about how pivotal aero gains are today and staying in position, and her number has fallen down. And yeah, that's not it's not an ideal thing to happen early on when we're talking about everything on the skin suit being perfectly slick. But yes.
May I say something?
Yes, you may.
It might actually help with dissipating the air off the back. Did you know that they actually the most aero rendering of hair on your legs, stick with it, is actually to shave the front of your legs and leave the back of your calves hairy, because of
so you think she's positioned this number?
I don't think it's deliberate, but I actually think, strangely, it might actually be helping. The odd little watt or two to dissipate, rather like the golf ball effect. You have dimples on a golf ball, and the reason that it flies further than a smooth golf ball is because it traps the air within those little, the small eddy currents form within the ball itself, and so the air that it's going through passes over more air, and so it actually has a less impactful effect. So yes, there is a dissipation factor here, but I'm not saying it's deliberate by any means. You'd probably rather have the number in the right place. Apart from anything else, you can hear it.
It might be a slight distraction, but no, it is a really interesting talking point. Well, it's very interesting for me as an utter tech geek, I must admit. But it is really interesting, and I've been privy to wind tunnel testing, to track testing, where you just constantly alter the smallest factors, and I've just had my jaw to the floor at the difference it makes immediately when you change one tiny factor, like you say. And we've understood more and more, haven't we, about aero gains over the years. We've had some really key riders just pushing forward the development and the understanding of why it really matters. And we joke about these things, but it could be as simple as one little ridge on a skin suit or something like that.
Amazing.
And I must just throw in my huge tangent that when I was heavily pregnant, I went cycling with one of our lovely colleagues, Matt Stevens, and he then started the talking point that pregnancy bumps make you more aero, because he believes that that is a fact. And then I said, yes, but if I'm more aero, I'm going to say that's going to be outweighed quite literally by the fact that I can barely get on the bike.
Exactly. No, that effect I was telling you about, it's the reason why javelins, for example, have a sort of a rough surface on the tail. It's exactly the same thing. The problem is, if you only shave the front of your legs and leave the back of your legs hairy, it looks terrible.
I'm not sure it's going to be worth any gains for me to do that, but it is good to know.
Anyway, moving on. Apparently, it's also hairy legs make it very painful to receive massage. There you go.
That's the other thing, isn't it?
Yes.
That is the other thing.
Off we go, and they're coming thick and fast right now. This is wonderful. It feels like a big party scale. And why not? Our friend from Norway, still plying a trade upon the course. And let's just give you some updates, shall we? Zhang is still quickest at the second split, so I'm expecting the Chinese athlete. She come through the third split as well. She's a minute and 12 up on Paladin. Is this Pazarova coming to the finish now? It is. And still we have Zavarin Nirere in the hot seat and has not been upset yet. Look at the heat haze we're starting to see generated as well. And as we get to a hotter part of the day, which is just a natural thing, of course, as the sun indeed starts to rise, same as Central European time, so we're just after 11:30 in the morning, local time here. Pavlova comes to the line, and they all know how tough this has been, but every single finisher we have just adds to Nerere's kudos as the home favourite, doing an amazing job.
Yeah, so Zavarin Nirere, the first off the ramp this morning, we were talking about how she had to measure the effort with the huge support that she's got here, with the fact that the occasion for her was so massive, being the debut rider to go off in these World Championships. Absolutely huge. Being the Rwandan national TT champion, there were so many things that she had to measure in the way she handled today, and the ride she put in was evidently fantastic. And I think we said, didn't we, it's very hard to tell with the first riders, the first rider off, what we're expecting from the field overall, but she put in such a measured effort. Her position looks so smooth. She got absolutely everything out of this cobbled section towards the last few hundred metres. And yeah, it was job done for her, and she's still sat in that hot seat. It's amazing.
Paladin just catching Benin's Westiu, and indeed sailing right, did the right thing, just got out of the, gave a decent gap between the pair. You're not allowed to sit in before 10 metres have been extended. That doesn't look like 10 metres to me, so I'm afraid that the Benin rider just getting a little bit of aero assist, possibly just being warned. Over to the other side of the road goes Paladin. Now don't forget that Shang is also on course. She'll be coming in behind Paladin in a few moments' time. But as it is, driving for the line is Paladin. She's already caught her 2.5-minute athlete in Ahowisu. We're staying with Ahowisu right now so that the motorcycle doesn't get involved in a negative way, but now is allowed to move forward by the commissaire. Good work. And so it is that Paladin is in the most difficult part of the course. Now, Paladin was second quickest at the split, but gave away 1:12 to Zhang, who will be picking up, I presume, fairly soon. Meanwhile, further out on course, this is Van der Breggen, and just look at this first intermediate. The clock's green. She's not that far away from the intermediate, so one can only suspect that this is going to be a mighty trim. We shall wait and see. We've got some great riders out there. I desperately want to get back to Paladin, actually, to see her finish, because I think she is going to take the lead. So relieve Zavarin Nirere of her position in the hot seat. 12.9 kilometre marker is going to be this split, just a little bit of pixelation. You'll forgive us for that. But she's going to bring this one home. We're going to see a lot of chops and changes. This is essentially, I believe, going to be the first one. So it is Soraya Paladin, who has had a road back to recovery, and at least she gets a comfy chair, I imagine, in a few moments' time. Here's Van der Breggen, and there is the Tissot timing, and look at this for a trim. Van der Breggen finds 50 seconds as a trim for the fastest so far, celebrates with a little toot on the bottle, and she now has to finish the job.
She does, but that's something she knows so well, is measuring her effort. I don't think I've ever seen her make mistakes in this scenario about what she expects from a course. And look at the position. She is just so well drilled at perfecting a time trial. I think what was so interesting coming into this season is how she would fare, and she's just delivered. So today's immensely exciting. But here is Soraya Paladin.
It is going to be our benchmark. We suspected that. She's been so strong out on the course. Just out, goes on to the drops, just gets out of the saddle to bring this one home. And thanks to Zavarin Nerere, but she's going to be relieved of that position in a few moments' time. Paladin is going to bring this home. Still quite a way to go. It's a tight camera angle, you can't quite see where she is relative to the finish, but she's into the rainbow stripes horned section. And here we go, heads up, just to this crest. She's going to come over the top. It's going to be our first sub 50-minute time. And all credit to Paladin. Just at that respite zone right now. It's almost cruelty in action as you watch it. Back out of the saddle, just wants to get the best time possible. You see the line, but actually it just seems to go further and further away from you with every pedal stroke. There is this little dish she has to go into and come out of once again. It's not the most challenging finale in terms of geography here, considering what she's already put in, but stops the clock at 1 minute and 30 trim. We got a 48.36. That is a very strong time. And thanks to Zavarin Nerere for setting a great benchmark. But it's Soraya Paladin that takes the lead.
Yeah, tough moment for Nerere there. She'll leave that hot seat, but we just once again must mark what a brilliant benchmark she put in early on today. That's Soraya Paladin, just weeks after breaking her collarbone, retiring from the tour. Here she is now back in that hot seat.
May not be there for long because 1 minute and 12 they were separated at the third timing point, and Xiao Zhang coming in, always very dialed in terms of the efficacy of their sports programs of China. They do physiological and sometimes psychological testing to make sure that athletes are absolutely cut out for their sport. And Zhang is a fantastic prospect. They have, of course, a wide population to pick from, but Zhang is absolutely at the top of her game, and this is going to be very impressive because Paladin's time was very, very good, and I think we're going to bust the 48s big time here. So 47, let's see what the clock stops at in a few moments' time. Wow. Whoa, 47.23, that's a time.
That certainly is, and typical of me, just as I'm talking about who's taken to the hot seat, of course it's going to immediately switch, and that's another heartbreaking point in a time trial, isn't it? Because riders just go to sit down and then they're straight out again, because we're going to see these times now coming thick and fast and just be bettered and bettered.
Yeah, a velvet hot seat? No, plastic stacker, sorry. It's a tough old game. That was a fantastic ride by Xiao Zhang. Congratulations to her. Let's see how the splits start to reveal themselves, because I've got to tell you that Norway's Ugset has just taken off Zhang's time, 46 seconds at the third checkpoint. So if she wants a hot seat, she better go and sit on it quick.
I would just as the next rider came in, I'd run over, park myself on it just for a moment to sit there. But yeah, difficult when you're not in it for long, but it is showing us just the class of the riders that we've got out on the course now.
Absolutely wonderful, still in recovery mode, and that is going to be the watchword for quite a few. 10.4 kilometres for Hoostens before she finishes her run. Sigrid Itterhus Ugezet, I think I said that right, is fastest through the third timing point by a margin over Zhang, who's just set our benchmark at the finish. 46 seconds to the good at the third checkpoint. That is enormous.
Talking of enormous time gaps, I think we're going to see a special ride, as we've come to expect from Anna Vallabregan. Eyes on her now, of course, and I know I keep saying it, but you've just got to observe her position on this bike. She is just flawless, isn't she? And you can see the way she has got her head positioned as well, and that little look up and then tuck back into position, and it makes all the difference.
Well, you're starting to see athletes eat into those around them. Martha Hoostens just comes by Mauritius, Marigan Legesse, and over to the other side of the road, and absolutely just tracing a golden thread through this tapestry of pain. Gosh, I need to get a t-shirt made with that phrase on it. Van der Breggen tucks in a little bit of shuffle here on the saddle. You see her encroaching the front. Let's see her readjust herself again in a moment. This is one of the things that can actually hamper you as on a time trial run is if you can't stay planted. And it's a difficult thing to mitigate against. We've had gripper saddles in the past. We've had some rather challenging looks, to be honest. Tony Martin once decided that he was going to get his own gripper saddle and decided to glue wet and dry sandpaper on his saddle. Unfortunately, it began to eat through his kit, and then it began to eat through him, and that wasn't a good look. So yes, there was an allowance, and some of the technology is actually built-in gripper saddles, and so the what we used to call butt shuffle has actually kind of ebbed a little bit. But occasionally you see riders just struggling to find that comfortable position. It's a mark of how much power they're putting in that they get out of position and then have to readjust. If you're constantly readjusting, it doesn't help.
It doesn't, but if you look at how solid she is now in this position, I think it's all about, I've talked about, you know, surprises on the day, haven't I, and the conditions, you can't utterly predict them down to the finest elements of, you know, exactly what the temperature's going to be, how the exact humidity is going to be the week you come into competition, but if anybody knows exactly what to expect from herself and the position, but you're right, yeah, there's some shifting around there, but she is very, very used to being in this TT position. She has put hours upon hours and hours and hours, not only throughout her entire career to perfect this, but recently she will have put such a big focus on today as well. We talked earlier about the fact that we've got some really big names absent from the men's field, the women's field, and whether or not they thought they could target today. The fact that Anna van der Breggen is fielding this TT means she is well drilled and well prepared to do something special.
That's the voice of Rebecca Charlton, who's joined me, Carlton Kirby, here for the UCI Road World Championships. We're in Kigali, in Rwanda. Well, there's been population here since 8000 BC they've found evidence of. And quite a few things have changed. We're having a bit of a party right now. And that's because this is the first time, of course, that the World Championships have been held here on the African continent. And it won't be the last, because it's been absolutely spectacular. Beautifully organised, and of course, our thanks to the UCI and Monsieur Le Portillon and indeed everybody who have collected together to produce what has been an amazing achievement. And just look at it as well, we have retina fizzing sunshine. It is glorious. There's very little wind. There will be even conditions for absolutely everyone throughout the run. A near perfect time trial, you might say. Well, some time trialists will possibly disagree with you, basically saying this is maybe not for the purists, but that makes it even more entertaining, because the questions that now we have as to who will thrive field have widened. We've got classics riders who can actually push the time trial bikes spectacularly so. And in fact, it's not the first time that the World Championships, the time trial, has featured altitude, but there's a lot in this course. We've got 460 metres of elevation gain spread over the 31.2 kilometres of the course, which is significant over such a short distance. So there are rises and falls, there's cobble sections as well. It's brilliant.
It's utterly brilliant, and it's even more brilliant because there were elements of the course that we'd all had a look at prior to today, thinking they might not be as taxing as they could be, but they evidently are. That final section is brutal after everything else they've contended with, and with the duration of today that we're looking at, this level of distance for a time trial and that elevation gain, it is all about not going into the red too early in those early time splits, as we just see Anna van der Breggen there overtaking Tennille Campbell, who went out ahead of her today, of course, for Trinidad and Tobago. But here we are with Anna van der Breggen, and I keep talking about the importance of pacing, and it's even more important when you're looking at riders taking on the altitude that they are at today, and the things like the air quality, the humidity. If you go into the red on a climb, it's bad. If you go into the red at altitude, with that to contend with as well, recovery becomes all the more difficult each kilometre you go on.
Mariska Ziergert, Slovenia. in their familiar national green, Slovenian racing green apparently. There we are. We will of course be seeing that in the men's race a little bit later on as well. A certain Mr. Talikachi, you may have heard of him. He will be going off.
He's not bad.
He's all right. You know. Well, he can push a pedal. Meanwhile, we come back to this spectacular. It's the finish at the convention centre here, and Uzet is going to unseat Bao Zhang, who has only just finished, and well, we said that some of the best may well be busting the 45. We're not quite there just yet, but we're getting close. This is going to be sub 46, and Zhao Zhang is also rather wonderfully applauding.
Gracious.
That's just lovely to see.
Yeah.
She's still got the velvet throne as it stands at the moment, but
Celebrating there
exactly.
for Sigrid Itra's handset coming in here.
How lovely. Line is about to welcome Uzet. She's still got this little rise and fall to deal with. The margin is going to be less than a minute, I think, by the time she reaches the line. But what a performance this is. Just about there. Here we go. She trims 59 seconds for a 46.24. And rather wonderfully, Zhao Zhang applauds her rival for what she has just achieved.
Yeah, she knew, didn't she? She knew she was off on her way out of the hot seat and took a moment to celebrate the time of Sigrid Itra's handset here. And yeah, that's a nice moment.
Absolutely wonderful. It's a glorious day, isn't it? It's it reminds me, this road, of the run down from the ridge down to Ian. Oh, yeah, I'm talking Derbyshire. Only because of the greenery, perhaps, but not the weather. And I've got to say, not the food either. They do a spectacular here. And some of the cuisine in these parts of the world are absolutely wonderful. So yeah, got a little bit of a piquancy to it as well. If you care to enjoy, some of the open air restaurants here are absolutely gorgeous. It's Phil Pesson here as well.
Look at that smile.
How lovely. She's done it. She's finished.
It's well, Land of 1,000 Hills.
Yeah.
Is where we have, just as I say, look at this setting, Land of 1,000 Hills, and it's not an easy course.
No, it's not. After which, cup of tea. Why not? These are the tea plantations, and rather beautiful they are as well. In fact, some of the black tea that you enjoy does indeed come from Africa. You talk about all the tea in China, Indian tea as well. Africa produces some amazing teas, and I've got to tell you that here in Rwanda they're particularly proud of their brew. We'll be having one a little bit later. Meanwhile, this is Sigrid is our leader for the time being. I do fancy a cup of tea actually, but anyway.
This
Nice.
is what I'm interested to see, Carlton, is how much Anna van der Breggen keeps the pressure on down the descents. And I was thinking she's going to start pedaling some of these downwards roads, and that is evidently the amount of power that this rider is able to get out of each part of this course. And we know how fast these descents are, but gearing again has been such a consideration coming into today to get over the ramps, but to really maximise what you can do, because when you're looking at those top three places today, the medal contention places, that is going to mean everything in terms of how much power they can keep carrying, of course, at every point today.
You know what? In any kind of speed event, and I remember talking to the great Terry Reimer. It was an endurance motorcyclist, 24-hour motorcycle racing. I said, "How is it you're so dominant?" And he said, "By making the easy bits hard." And I just thought that is absolutely right, and we're seeing that from Anna van der Breggen. It's an easy bit. Don't take a break. This is where you can make a difference, because if everyone else is taking a break, power through, make the easy hard, and you're going to do something spectacular.
Exactly that, and we know in this sport that's what it takes, that's what it comes down to. Did you manage to carry a little bit of power through a section that somebody else didn't? That could win it. His new Doma.
Make the easy bits hard. Listen to
Love
Terry.
that. So true.
Here we go, Nivedoma, and that's a big giveaway, I'm afraid. A minute and a half down at this point. That's a surprise.
It is a surprise. Kasia Nivedoma, we know her class, we know her all-round ability as well, that she can really succeed in different disciplines, but looking to suffer there.
Look at that, to the way that curve was and how quickly she was not fearful about grounding a pedal. That is knowing your machine apart from anything else. Knowing your lean angles, knowing when you can get the power on as you come out of a corner without actually getting yourself up, destabilised and into trouble. She kept that so smooth. This is wisdom.
It is wisdom, and that's what she brings to our sport, and that's why I'm so delighted she is back in this fold of the World Tour peloton at the very top end of it. And I think, going back to my point before, when she announced that she'd come back, there were big question marks over whether you can be out of the sport. We know she would have kept training, of course, she evidently did. But whether or not you can translate that into race success is another thing. And she came into the Spring Classics and did exactly that. And I think we then had such high expectations of her all season and just went back into thinking of her as an out-and-out favourite, forgetting that she's been away from the sport. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to get some more answers today. But here's Anna Kiesenhofer, who many people will, of course, remember from her win at the Olympic Games in Tokyo, where she just, she made a staggering move and secured that victory, and I think surprised herself, although perhaps not, because I think she was well aware of her capabilities. But she's had a really interesting journey in this sport, coming out of the pro team fold for 2025 and actually taking on a coaching role in Team Picnic Postelel and the team staff behind the scenes. But she's completely decided, right, I'm going to focus in on the World Championships today in the time trial.
Gosh, this looks like a challenging start, I must say, for Rusa. Hope she's okay. I mean, to me, Rusa is potentially our favourite for today. So Marlon gets herself ready and underway. This is going to be very, very special. Reigning Swiss time trial champion. Swiss time, of course. Swiss time is running out. Famous line. Which song was that? Smoke on the Water, of course. Deep Purple. We know that. Deep into the red. Housens, I'm afraid. 47.53. She'll be a little disappointed with that, I'm afraid. We'll get back to Marlon Rusa in a few moments' time. 3 medals, 2 silvers and a bronze she's had, of course, in the Worlds. But last year, suffered a bit of burnout, which is a shame. Self-declared, I've got to say. But yes, she is, when it comes to time trialling, absolutely spectacular. Forced to abandon Tour de France Femme in July due to illness, which is something that you have to retrieve, bounce back from. And in fact, everyone's going to get bad luck in their career, and illness, I think, is one of the most unlucky things, because it's got nothing to do with form, it's got nothing to do with kind of injury, really, and your recovery rates, or indeed your dedication. You can't mitigate against getting ill, and it happens to everybody. You've got to get from it.
It's really hard because I think there's been so many big narratives that played into how good this season's been, and I genuinely believe that this, for me, is the best season of women's cycling we have ever had. It has just been spectacular.
Just because you've been commentating it, obviously.
Yeah. And I think, and we've got eyes on Kiesenhofer here, it'll be really interesting to see what she can do today. And but back to your point there on Marlon Reusser, there was a lot of illness going around, stomach bug sickness, and we know that that can spread not only throughout a team, you're all sharing rooms, you're around tour together, but it can transcend that and go through the entire peloton. And we saw so many people with huge targets of coming in spectacular form to the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift, being immediately taken out with illness. Of course, most prominently being Marlon Reusser, to fall victim of that illness. And she was quite open, as she normally is in interviews, which I love because she's so candid. But she was saying, yeah, I'm just too unwell to even consider being at my peak, and we saw that very early on, forcing her to retire. There's Brodie Chapman of Australia starting, another person that we always talk about in a time trial, because as you'll see, she is able to push it to the limit.
Well, in Oz, everyone, of course, is a time trialist because it's how you start your game, really. Race against the clock, point to points, out and backs, as they're sometimes called. So out into the outback and then back again. So yeah, defending national champion is Brodie Chapman, and you don't wear the green and gold for nothing. She is absolutely fabulous. We love the Aussies and the way that they absolutely are so attack-minded. A sporting-based nation is how Australia can describe itself quite honourably. For the population they have, the champions that they produce is off the scale.
It is such an exciting part of the world, isn't it? Especially in time trials. Let's just go. When we finished here. But no, I think for me, what has really stood out, I guess this season, but always with Brodie Chapman, is the ability she has to be such a workhorse for her trade team. She has been a super domestique, but she's also then, when it transfers back to being her as an individual, she delivers. And I don't think that's an easy balance, because we know the psychology of being a domestique, working for others. You do completely transfer your mindset and how you perform that role. So to then put full focus back into yourself to delivering on the day, yeah, that takes a lot of skill. And Brodie Chapman brings so much experience to that, and she'll be great out there today.
Yeah, I mean, she's quite remarkable, to be honest. The sort of list of success that she's had. Considering the knockbacks that everyone gets here, and just to maintain it. Third in the time trial at the Giro, second in the time trial at the Turningen Ladies Tour as well. Oh, she's brilliant. So let's see how she goes. Kiesenhofer is on course, the Austrian, to do something great, but she's never afraid to hide her discomfort. Let's put it that way. She was absolutely internally screaming there. Niedermeyer is next. And away she goes. I mean, she is, of course, the national champion. And it was Germany that brought tea, apparently, to Rwanda back in the day. I don't know where they got the tea plants from. They probably nicked them from the Brits, who obviously nicked them from the Chinese and then set up their own plantations in India. I mean, China's had the monopoly on tea, and now it's everywhere, but particularly some of the best of it here in Rwanda. It's not rock tea. Anyway, Kiesenhofer. We're looking at her right now. Van der Breggen with a 35.44 at the third intermediate and a minute and 53 up. This is rude.
I love your quotes. You know that, Carlton. They're all, I was going to say Twitter bios, ex-bios now. But in their own right, they stand alone, Carlton, legendary. 1.5 kilometres remaining for Anna van der Breggen. We're seeing her navigate these cobbles now. Be interesting to look at her position on the bike, which I've talked about so much today. But back with Kiesenhofer here, and as you mentioned before, there are certain riders, actually Anna van der Breggen, very good at it, at just concealing any evidence of pain on their face. But Kiesenhofer is very much heart on sleeve. This is the amount of effort I'm pouring into this. She played down her chances coming into today, so she didn't have the ideal preparation. But she's another rider that always focuses on a target, evidently because she won the Olympic Games that way.
That Kivu, absolutely beautiful. It's almost like an inland sea, this. It's a landlocked nation, of course, Rwanda. But at one side of this great lake, you almost can't see the other side of it. It's absolutely beautiful and well worth a visit. Back to the BK Arena. Labous is about to engage, and we've got the very best now. This is where it starts to get properly serious. Juliette Labous was actually beaten by Cédrine Kerbayol, who we've already seen on course, but Juliette Labous, again, another one of the very, very strong time trialists from a very strong nation when it comes to this discipline, France. And away she goes. Her left eardrum will have a ringing sound in it by the time she leaves the arena here, because that's the side the drummers are upon. Away she goes, and that time tunnel rear disc. See what she can do, shall we? Anna Henderson will be next, then Chloe Dygert, and then, of course, Demi Vollering to draw the start house to a close and give the drummers a break. Meanwhile, everyone's going to be saying, oh, give us a break. Van der Breggen is absolutely in charge. This could well be meddling significance. Let's wait and see. Sigrid is having a look. She's got a big grin, shaking her head.
She's like, that's okay.
Just sheer appreciation. I don't mind being beaten by Van der Breggen. How lovely is this?
If you're going to be beaten by someone, you would just accept it, wouldn't you? If it was Van der Breggen coming in to take your time and better it, you can see the look on Sigrid Hassed's face there. Yeah, okay, she's the best in the biz. But she's only just come out of that position in this push to the line. She's been so neat all day on every kilometre of this course. She knows how important it's going to be to get absolutely every inch of power and leave it all out on the road. And she's a rider that so well knows how to do that. Look at this coming into the line here and back down in TT position.
Every single pedal stroke matters. Make the easy bits hard. Don't finish at the line. Think about finishing beyond it, and it's beyond even her expectations. That is a powerhouse performance of exceptional quality and delivery. Wow, we have a heck of a winner here, at least for the time being. Let us wait and see how long this can last, but at the finish line, we're in the 44s, for goodness sake. The trim is 2 minutes and 23 at the finish with a 44.01, and she has broken into the 42s as an average, a 42.5 average pace throughout that punishing course. Underscores Anna Van der Breggen's sheer greatness.
Talked about textbook displays of dominance from Anna Van der Breggen. Look at the damage she's done there. That was just a joy to watch, and she was so calm, as we've come to expect from this rider, so measured in her effort. Nothing is left to chance. But here's Anna Henderson, Great Britain.
She's off and underway, and Anna Henderson has now got a big task on her hands. Possibly career-defining. Let's wait and see. She hasn't yet moved on to a podium as far as the world's concerned. That will be her big target, to get a medal. Let's hope that that indeed happens to her, because you know what? It's not beyond the realms of possibilities, and this rider on your screen now proves that. If you have belief, it counts for a massive percentage of what you can deliver.
It completely does, and psychology, as we know, is so important, but I think teams are placing so much more importance on understanding the mental approach to coming into these races, and how well you deal with pressure can, of course, massively affect your result on the day. Anna Henderson does deliver when it matters, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She has really proven that in her career, albeit she's still such a young rider, achieving such big things in her list of achievements so far in this sport. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what she does. She's another rider that's had to come back from so many setbacks from injuries, and she's got full focus on today. So I think it could be an exciting ride. But we're going to say that, aren't we, for the last few riders, because there is some serious competition out on the road at the moment, and indeed with our last couple of riders to go off that start round. They are going to challenge the time of Anna Van der Breggen, and one of those people is her teammate Demi Vollering from Dutch Cycling this week, and that will be very interesting to see what Vollering can do. And I think we always say it, don't we? Anything can happen, but it can. We don't wish it on a rider, but we can see mistakes, we can see crashes, we can see people push a turn too much. It'll be very interesting to see who really capitalises on everything today. Talking of which, someone that can do that very well, our big favourites, Chloe Dygert.
Chloe Dygert getting ready. Bronze last year, of course. She'd like, by sheer alchemy and force of will, to turn that to gold today. Let us wait and see. She's got Demi Vollering, of course, still to come off the ramp, who was the best placed, and indeed in this last year, and will be wearing number 1. Here we go. So, Great Britain versus the United States versus Netherlands, France, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. Well, it has a European whiff to that list of favourites. However, we are racing in Africa, and we thank the people of Rwanda and Kigali. We thank the UCI as well for this amazing event. And it's just so beautifully delivered. And right now, it's a question of just digging in for a little bit of glory. And in fact, why not have a lot of glory? Yes. We're getting ourselves greedy now because the performances are spectacular. That corner looked a bit out of shape here for Kaisenhofer. The dead turn is a difficult thing to master. You've got to get that absolutely bang on, haven't you? There's a couple of seconds there.
Yeah, and that's what it all comes down to, time and time again, is balancing it. We've talked about that, haven't we, with the time trial position. There's no point in being in the most aero extreme position if you can't hold it, if you're constantly shifting around. And here we have eyes now on Kasia Niewiadoma of Poland, and it looks like she's suffered out there today.
Certainly has, and we've seen a few grimaces. This is not a grin, this is absolute end of resources, I'm afraid. By the time she crosses the line, it's going to be possibly nearer to the 3-minute mark than it is the 2-minute mark here, but no shame in this. That some of the conditions will be better to the liking of some riders than others, but bang in the middle of my prediction there, it is 2.5 minutes, I'm afraid, giving away, 2:31 to be precise. But, as you've just heard, good enough for third place, which explains some of the big margins that we have had. So yeah, slotting into third place behind Sigrid Utris, Ugset, and indeed Xiao Zhang, who was at 3 minutes and 22. It's a big gap still. Later on, I think every second may well start to count. You can only guess, but what we are seeing is that Van der Breggen's time, we assumed the times would be between 45 minutes and 50. I think we did all right with our assumptions, to be honest. A 44:01.
You did the maths. I'll give you that credit.
Wow.
That's the truth.
So I'll tell you, maths is not my strong point, but anyway, it's, you know, even a stop clock is right twice a day, don't forget. Anyway, Vollering is about to get off and underway. This is going to close out. The drummers can have a bit of a break. Looks like some of the skins here might actually go pop at any moment now, but they've maintained their smile throughout, and I'm not surprised because this has been grin-makingly brilliant, this event.
Everything about today has been joyful, hasn't it? We've got a spectacular field out on the road. We've had riders who probably never dreamt that they would be fielding a World Championships, who've taken to that start ramp early today. It's been purely joyful. Here is Chloe Dygert. She is a massive favourite today, of course, for the USA. And I feel like in recent years, everybody focuses on and talks about how horrendously she crashed at the Worlds in 2020. And many will remember that because it was just such a devastating crash and subsequent injury. But the way she's come back from that and just fought to get back to this level and done again so many all-round successful rides in the last few years. I'm excited for Dygert today. Here is Cedrica Bowl coming in on her ride.
Yes, same initials as me, CK, but not Colin Kirby, it's Cedric Cabral. It sounds like Kirby actually, but no, it does not sound like a good number, I'm afraid, however you look at it. Still going to be good enough to nudge that podium, and there it is. But it shows you, really, the dominance of Van der Breggen when you start to indeed extrapolate those who've gone well here. Who's going to go better than Anna Van der Breggen? I don't know how long that time's going to last, but I think she's going to get herself a little bit comfy in that hot seat. Cedric Cabral will take some time to recover. It'd be nice to hear actually from some of those who completed the task today. But we want to give, to keep it live for those who are out on course, Demi Vollering will close us out today. Time for the drummers to have a break. They'll be back on duty, of course, for the men's event. That will indeed get itself off and underway in, what, about an hour and 20 minutes, the men will begin.
When
Before
you had
then,
your cup of of tea.
Oh, it's desperate, quite frankly. And yes, we will, of course, draw this to a magnificent conclusion. The very best of today is still to come. Here it is. I cannot wait to see which one of the women is going to be world champion, because there are so many deserved cases, and each one with a different story to tell as well. It's magnificent.
Yeah, there's so many different stories within this peloton today, isn't there? And indeed, people focusing in on the road race in a week's time as well, as Monica Trincocolonel for Italy comes in here. And we did expect these big time differences on a course like today.
Yeah, we did. It's starting to seep in here. She gave away 1:53 at the third checkpoint to Anna van der Breggen, and she's not that far off that margin right now, which means that she's held it very well in the most difficult part of the course. So there it is. That's the margin now. So every second after this counts as what she's lost in the latter part of the course. But it's not much. This is a very, very strong performance by the young Italian.
It is, and it's really good to qualify that, isn't it? As I mentioned, the nature of this course means we did expect it big time gaps, and that's enough to ride her into second currently. But it is interesting when you were talking about how when we get to these medal positions, every second is going to count, every split second counts against the clock. It always does. And if you look at where Anna van der Breggen came in, as we just see what our current standings look like, Trincocolonel indeed going into second there, as it currently stands out on the course. But Anna van der Breggen came across that line so smoothly. She did not waste any effort coming across the cobbles, transitioning back down into the skis, back on the TT bars, and she has drilled that to perfection, and that's what time will tell. Very shortly, we'll see if that's made enough of a difference to keep her in that hot seat. You can just see the effort that this has taken out of the course today.
You should arrive empty.
Yeah.
That is the idea. To use every single fibre of your being to deliver. Your finish line isn't the finish line itself if you're amongst the very best. You have to think beyond the finish line. You have to go through the finish line, not to finish there, but to power through it. Attack the finish line. Make the easy bits hard. When everyone else is starting to think about easing up, taking a break, you need to stay focused and on it. And that's the way that you can achieve greatness. And Anna van der Breggen has done it on so many occasions. I think almost having that physiological and psychological will and memory of having been there to visit those dark places makes it an easier task.
It certainly does, and yeah, it's all about knowing what to expect, and if you've been in that place and you know how to handle it well, it's going to serve a purpose on the day. And I was talking a moment ago, before we saw Vollering start, about how you can have the most aggressive aero position, but if it doesn't suit you, it's not going to be a position you can hold. But it's the same with someone like Chloe Daiger can put so much pressure into a turn and know her limit, know where she can hold it, and sometimes exceed it. We have seen that, of course. We've seen all these riders at some point in their career push the limit of a time trial, potentially come off on a turn, especially if we're not knowing what to expect with weather conditions, if it's been partially wet on the day. You know, we've seen riders push past that limit. But these riders that we're seeing out on the course now know better than anybody today where that limit is, how you balance that fine line, whether it's an aggressive position, whether it's powering down a descent, whether it's taking a technical turn at absolute pace. They know what they have in the tank. They've recce'd it, they've practiced it. They know exactly what to do on every inch of this course, and that's what you need to be a TT specialist at the end of the day.
Chloe Daiger, after a horrific crash, we only dwell on it because of the effectiveness with which she's put that behind her. She could well be our champion at the end of today. We just don't know. She's that. You talk about mentality there, Rebecca. She's got absolutely everything dialed in. A proper predator, as lovely as you can be off the bike, and just the most dialed in, focused, predatory individual, which is what you have to be when you are in the office, which is on the bike.
And I've spoken to so many riders about that because, you know, being in our position, we have these lovely chats with riders when they are personable and off the bike, and we're very relaxed in terms of the circumstance we're chatting to them. And then the focus that descends on them in a bunch sprint, in a time trial, on race day, they have to have that. They have to be able to switch that on and off. And again, the best riders in the world can evidently do that to perfection, because that's what it takes to be this good on the bike, is to not let any outside noise in. And every rider has a different psychological approach, a different way of looking at the sport, but they all have this laser focus, and yeah, you ultimately need that switch, I think, to put it on and off. But here's Marlon Reusser. We haven't had too much sight of her so far, have we, out on the course? But we were talking before, when she was on that start ramp earlier, about how much illness she's had to contend with this season. And for me, it's another sign, I think, in a way, of how we've seen the women's peloton and racing schedule evolve, in that once upon a time, female riders would have to field absolutely everything. Now we're seeing riders target different Grand Tours throughout the season, not perhaps target everything. And that becomes important when riders have back-to-back-to-back targets, and then illness hits them and you can't recover properly. And we had such high hopes for Reusser coming into the Tour de France after everything she did early season, the battle with Demi Vollering that was just set up to perfection. It was what we all wanted. But she had such bad luck with illness, couldn't ultimately field the Tour, but she's gone away. She's been quite quiet as to how her preparations have gone, but we presume they've gone very well.
Well, she's suddenly gone loud after going quiet, because at the first timing point, she is 15 seconds to the good of Anna van der Breggen. Van der Breggen was not the fastest at that point. In fact, there's now 3 riders quicker than her at the first intermediate. But Van der Breggen ran what we often refer to, for those that don't know, as a negative split. So she kept something back, some reserves, which she knew she would be spending later on. And that's wisdom, and that comes with experience, of which Anna van der Breggen has plenty. Reusser, though, has gone all in early. Now, if she can hold it, and that is a big if, then the Swiss could actually produce something magnificent. She is 9 seconds to the good of Katrine Allerud, 13 seconds better than Niedermayer, and she is 15 seconds faster at the first split than Anna van der Breggen. So there's a lot to be done here. Juliette Labousse was 5th quickest, with Brodie Chapman has actually just gone through 5th quickest, but she's giving away 15 seconds to Van der Breggen. So there's a lot at stake, and it's the latter part of this course where you are going to find or lose those seconds, because that's where the most difficult tasks lie, not least the cobbles that we have to deal with. That cobbled climb at the end is going to be a championship definer, I think.
And these riders will have considered exactly where they can afford to be in terms of going into that red or not in those earlier parts of today's course, because as you say, there's so many challenges in the latter part of that. But as with Demi Vollering, Marlon Reusser knows exactly how to pace for herself as an individual, and I think that's something that becomes quite difficult as a rider as well throughout their career, is not looking around at what everybody else is doing. We know that you can look around and say, well, what gearing is that rider running? Have they gone for the same pacing strategy? But ultimately, when you are able to win time trials at the level that someone like Reusser is, you ride your own pace, you do your own plan, and you don't let anybody knock your confidence with that. You come in with utter belief, and I think that's what's been fascinating about the demeanour of Reusser, is she knows exactly what she's capable of doing today, but somebody else that's had a very good run into this with good preparations is Demi Vollering.
I cannot wait for this second intermediate split. We've got head-to-head rolling here between Vollering and Daiger, which is absolutely fascinating. As you can see, there's a 16-second gap on their current part of the course, which is one measured against the other. So we've got proper battles going on here. We talked about some of the areas within the circuit as well. Hardly going round and round. We're going around the houses, you might say, and uphill and down dale as well. This is a proper mixed course. And as a result, because it's not an absolutely pure time trialling course, it offers us up some speculation as to who might thrive today. Marlene Reusser started off as my favourite today, but even though she has an advantage at the first checkpoint, it's the survivability of the latter part of the course that is going to find our winner. Here she is, and the target time for her is a 28:35. She's very close to the next checkpoint. It's up ahead of her, and I think she might still be in the lead. Now, if she is, this is going to be a question of trying to carry this to the latter part of the course, and that's the big task. She's already taken a big bite out of, well, just about everybody. Let's see what time that this clock stops. It's our intermediate, the second one. This is a big check for her and a big wake-up call for everybody else as to what's required to go forward. Wow, 28 seconds up. She is in phenomenal pace, and look at how smooth she looks as well, unencumbered by diversions. She has one focus, and that is a gold medal and a rainbow jersey, and she might well already be halfway to pulling it on.
And nobody will know better what challenges lay ahead in the latter parts of this course. Reusser is a joy to watch in the time trial because of that level of understanding, of experience, of riding her own race. But as much as she wants rainbow bands on her shoulders at the end of the day, so does Chloe Dykert for the USA. And back to your point that a lot of people talk about how serious her crash was in 2020 at the Worlds. And I think it's something that as a rider, she's such a positive force, isn't she, that she's like, right, let's not dwell on that, let's talk about where I am now. But you can see when you're behind the scenes at races, sometimes she needs help because of the long-lasting effects of how serious that injury on her leg was. And she doesn't dwell on it. She goes back out there fighting at the absolute top of her class every single time. And she is another rider that has not only gone for individual results, but has been working tirelessly all season for her trade team. And that's why I think today could be very special for Dykert, because today is ultimate focus on her target, on her goal of getting those rainbow bands.
And here she is. It's the ultimate, isn't it? Reusser, we talk about 2 silvers and a bronze in the discipline, but needs to take that step forwards. Dykert could well be, Chloe could be one of those to stop her. Let's have a look at the splits, shall we, as they reveal themselves to us. Dykert was only 6th quickest at the first timing point. She is coming up to stop the clock shortly, but here is Benito Panicio at the line for Spain. This is a good time, however, our expectations have now been altered going forward, I'm afraid, and so it's a cruel game this we play. You can finish second, but it's margins as well which count for an awful lot. She's going to be solidly into second place by the looks of things, and she is. That's a silver medal, but 1 minute and 40 is an enormous gap, and I feel like we're going to get closer, I'm afraid, to Anna van der Breggen's target than has just been.
Yeah, of course, we've got to mark how brilliant these times that are being set now are, but back in the thick of the action, these time gaps are going to be a lot smaller, let's say, as we've got our real podium contenders coming in to these points in the course. We've got eyes now on Demi Vollering, of course the Dutch teammate of Anna van der Breggen, who we've seen put in a brilliant time to put her into that hot seat earlier. But I think that's something that's always been a talking point when we come to the World Road Race, is just how much Dutch talent there actually is within one team.
Look at this, how close is this? What a battle! We said every second counts. How about less than a second? 0.68 at that split. What a head-to-head we've got going on at the moment. There'll be others that come and join the fun. This is amazing. Reusser at the first intermediate. Just about 3/4 of a second only separating Marlene Reusser and indeed Demi Vollering. And right now, this is going to go absolutely right down to the wire. Essentially, they're on the same time. What a battle.
This is incredible. It's what we wanted, it's what we hoped for, and it is delivering. And now it will be a case of us watching exactly how much these riders can get out of these sections of the course.
Just look at this. At this point, Van der Breggen was pedaling, but it's a focused turn down here. How much energy do you want to put into that? And then the escape. And do you remember how urgently Anna van der Breggen got on the pedals as well and looked smoother, I've got to say. But Marlen Reusser, maybe she carried in exactly the right pace to actually deal with that technical section. Looked slightly more ragged as she got the power down, but that is, don't read too much into my reading of that. She now is smooth as absolute silk, and her deportment on the bike is absolutely wonderful to watch. She almost looks like a cartoon rendition of perfection on the bike.
Yeah, completely. And that's what we're talking about now, isn't it? With these last few riders out on the course, is utter perfection with such small margins between them. And it is, as you say, it is hard to tell because somebody might be able to capitalise on one part of the course more than another rider, and then of course we know other people can pull that back in different parts of it, and maybe someone doesn't keep the pressure on a turn, but maybe they then are suited better to an incline or a descent. Here's Anna Henderson, we just see Chloe Dygert up there. These times are going to be so close between these riders because they all want it. Not only are we talking about them being well drilled, well prepared, having been at altitude, having the best kit and equipment in this field, but they want it. They're so hungry for the World Championship bands, and it's so significant. Of course it is, to wear that for the rest of, well, the next season, for the year.
She's about 5 minutes away from her second intermediate, but I can tell you, Anna Henderson only gave away 12 seconds to Marlen Reusser at the first split. At the first split, after 16 minutes and 34 of racing, the clock stopped for Reusser at checkpoint 1, following only 0.68 of a second down upon her. Katrine Allerud at 9 seconds adrift at that point. Anna Henderson, 12 seconds. Anna van der Breggen, 15 seconds off that mark. Niedermeyer was 13 seconds, by the way, in 5th place. Van der Breggen, 6th quickest at that first timing point. And the head-to-head here is absolutely laser locked on. You do good at every single moment.
Well, I'm sure everybody has followed this season as closely as we have, but coming in this year and seeing Marlen Reusser switch teams to Movistar, of course former teammate of SD Works Pro Time, when we saw her switch teams, her demeanour changed. She became a GC contender, not only that, a GC leader. We were treated to the head-to-head battle between Reusser and Vollering, and we hoped for that today. We knew that they both had it in them to have the tightest possible battle, and that's what's playing out now. And we were expecting to see that at the Tour.
Whoa!
We didn't get that.
Enormous.
Look at this.
23 seconds, she's getting quicker. Oh my goodness.
And this is what I was talking about. Marlen Reusser knows what lies ahead, and she is a pacing expert. Her ability as a tactician in time trials is why she's won so many times, and she will not have underestimated this course. She won't have been doing inaccurate reading on what she needs to do with her pacing. She just knows how to get it right, and yeah, that's what we're seeing at play now.
This is absolutely remarkable. She was 15 seconds up on Van der Breggen at the first checkpoint, and we said, is this survivable? If you can carry it, we talked earlier on about being able to get up to pace and then glide with it. And some others are more peaky. They're like an old ice hockey stick. They can go smooth and then deliver something at the end. Others kind of peak and then go into a trough. But Marlen Reusser is doing an amazing job. Vollering's split is going to be fascinating in a few moments' time. Reusser had an advantage over Van der Breggen of 15 seconds at the first split. Van der Breggen, who still sits in the hot seat, 28 seconds was her gain over the second checkpoint. And so how can she possibly carry it? Reusser has an advantage of 23 seconds at the third. Can she hold? It's a tough finish, as you are seeing here from Kaisenhofer. 7th place, nearly 3 minutes down. It shows you just what the gulf in, indeed, results are at the line. At the moment, it's Anna van der Breggen, who will have seen All right, maybe a slightly diminished, 5 seconds between checkpoint 2 and 3. Can Rusa hold on? I think if Rusa copes with the final climb, she should have this. But it's actually, now I'm thinking about it, it's going to be less of a gap than perhaps we were expecting.
Indeed. I mean, you've asked the question there on Marlon Roycer, and I would say absolutely she can deliver. What she's done this season, what we know she's done in previous seasons in time trials as well, she is so capable at understanding and navigating the challenges up ahead in the latter part of this course. I think she's going to put in an incredibly special ride today. That said, we are seeing very, very small competitive time gaps here. It is absolutely thrilling, but we have missed out during parts of the summer because of Royce's illness to that battle between Vollering and Roycer, and here it is now playing out in front of our eyes.
Got about 5 minutes left for Vollering to get to the second intermediate. A reminder that the gap was virtually the same, but 0.7 of a second separating is Henderson. Now, she was 4th at the first time split, don't forget, gave away 12 seconds to Rusa. Let's see. It's an expanded gap, I'm afraid, for Anna Henderson, but this is still a very strong performance. Let's see, it's 33 seconds giveaway now. So essentially that gap has extended by around about 20 seconds between the two checkpoints, which kind of underscores what Rusa is achieving out there. And her job has still not been completed. We're bringing them in. This is Alarud. And the clock's only just gone red against her, so she's close at hand. She's going to go into this little dip. She's not going to beat Ella van der Breggen. She may move into a medaling place here. Let's wait and see at the final. In fact, she should be good enough for silver for now. Coming through the heat haze, it's getting warmer out there. Temperatures hovering around about 27 Celsius, but nudging up, I think, in the sunshine here to over 30. So possibly discomfort for some, but this is a great shot by Alarud. Silver medal for now.
Brilliant ride from Alarud. And we've talked so much about pacing, and you do not want to get that wrong either way, but you don't want to leave anything out on the road, and evidently, you can just see the level of suffering coming in. Here we are back with Roycer, and we expected a special ride, we expected big things from her, and my goodness, she is certainly giving us what we wanted.
Check it out. She has, indeed, the steepest part, the most uncomfortable part, I think, has just been dispatched. So she has the remainder to deal with, and you can see the shockwaves just going through her shoulders here. There is another steep test just up ahead, but she's doing a fabulous job. Her target time, by the way, at the finish is a 44.01, so she's still 4 minutes away. And you think, well, she's only 1,400 metres, so she should easily do it. No, it's going to be close, because the time starts to get stripped out here. Let's see.
It certainly does, and that is the part of the course, I think, that we found it quite hard to predict early on, and we've just seen how much the riders have had to navigate, to suffer. We think they're almost there. It's a long stretch to that line, and I'm saying that's out here, so I can only imagine how tough that pull is to the line. But just look at what Roycer is doing here, and I think psychologically, after the disappointment she had at not being able to field the tour in the way that she planned to do, that would have fired her up even more mentally to plan ahead to come in at an absolute peak today.
Check this out. She has dispatched the cobbles. She's on to the asphalt. There's the Flamme Rouge. She's going to roll everybody, Roycer. It's a Rolls-Royce performance. This could be spectacular. She's smoothed out the bumps. She's powering home. Gives herself just a moment here to double check into the corner. I think she knows that maybe she's got this in the bag, and it might be by a handsome margin as well. My goodness, we'll be back to her as she finishes, but Chloe Daggett is just coming, and this at the intermediate is a shock.
It is. This is a really big shock for Chloe Daggett. I mean, I've said time and time again today that we had so much unpredictability that this course was going to offer today. And this has been a tough day for Daggett.
Certainly has. She was giving away 28 seconds at the first intermediate. Meanwhile, let's get back to this, shall we? Oh, this is wonderful. This is a limousine performance by this athlete. Absolutely perfect. She has smoothed out the course and actually delivered something incredibly special here. In fact, she saved the power until last. She comes up over the rise here, but her rise has been inexorable, I think you might say. This is potentially going to be our winning time. She started off as favourite in my eyes, and she has lived up to the billing. She's opened the door, closed it behind her, and said, this is my party. And you know what? Nobody else is invited. Let's see if we get some gate crashes later on. But I believe that this is going to be a championship winning performance. Roysa hits the line brilliantly. Whoa, 43.09 is exponentially brilliant.
What a ride from Marlon Roysa. What perfection and delivery. And do you know what? When she came into the section, we knew was going to be brutal. And under that flamme rouge, she made it look almost effortless. That is how much she danced through those closing meters to deliver such a staggering time. We knew she'd had setbacks this season. She targeted this. She had such, I was going to say, a quiet confidence about her. No, she had an outright confidence coming into today. The way she spoke in pre-race interviews, she knew she had something very special in the bag, and you can just see she has delivered out there to perfection today.
That is amazing. 43.3 kilometres per hour average. A full, almost, kilometre an hour faster than everyone else has finished so far. She had lost just 5 seconds between the checkpoint 2 and 3, and then decided to go to the top table and eat the cake. She has come home brilliantly with an advantage, get this, over Anna van der Breggen of 51.89 seconds, nearly 52 seconds clear of the mighty Anna van der Breggen. Let us see if anyone can get close. It's a big, big ask. We still have riders out there who may deny her, but for right now, Marlon Roysa looks amazing.
Absolutely incredible. Here we are with Anna Henderson, 5.4 kilometres remaining for the rider from Great Britain. And, oh gosh, we just can't shout enough about Marlon Roysa this season. For me, it's just been a fairy tale season for her, and we've had so many ups and downs that we've lived through with her. She came in and showed us what she could do as a GC leader. As I say, not just coming in as, right, I might be a big contender now, but dominating, winning in ways we didn't see from her in previous seasons because she wasn't given the freedom. She perhaps wasn't in the same headspace that she's been in this year. She's had that utter confidence, the confidence of Team Movistar, doing everything to support around her. She didn't have an ideal end to the summer. She went away and she prepared at altitude and she targeted the worlds today. And oh my goodness, we've just seen that play out to utter perfection. She couldn't have hoped for that to go any better, of course. We're just seeing the damage it's done as we've got our last riders out on the course now.
Henderson comes through fourth quickest at the third intermediate, giving away 38 seconds to Roysa. Chances of finding that later on are possibly slim, but we're starting to see some times that would have had the beating of Anna van der Breggen potentially. This is one of them. Brodie Chapman, I still think she is going to be in a bronze medal position by the time she hits the line here. But nonetheless, we're seeing some terrific performances. And it may well be we have modest margins between the medals, but possibly not between gold and silver. Let us wait and see who can get close to Marlon Roysa. But right now is Chapman coming in for what potentially could be a bronze medal position, I believe. It's going to be tight because Allerud sits on a 124 and she knows she's racing for that right now. Chapman comes to the line. Is she going to get there? She knows she's got to sprint for it and does so brilliantly. And indeed, bronze medal position so far, pushing Katrine Allerud just out of the medals right now. Roysa provisional gold ahead of Van der Breggen. And now, indeed, we're starting to see some great performances. Brodie Chapman has just produced one herself.
Brodie Chapman, class as always, and we do have to keep qualifying those times, don't we? Because we've seen some brilliant rides today that on any other day would have put them right up there at the top of those standings. But Royce has just blown everybody out of the water today. Here we are back with Anna Henderson of Great Britain. 3.1 kilometres remaining for her, and you can just see her experience though coming through here, because she has stayed and remained calm throughout this course.
Great run, I've got to say. And, you know, there is, when you see performances like Mollen Royce has produced, there is no shame in finishing in the top 10 behind such performances. It's where you're going to be. Vollering double checks into the corner, almost got the line here, just slightly out of kilter, but immediately on the power with 7.3 kilometres to go. Now then, Vollering, let's give you an update of where she has been sitting. Second intermediate was 28 seconds down on Marlon Royce, almost exactly the same time, incidentally, as Anna van der Breggen. So, in terms of Neil on the bragging rights, she wants to go extremely strongly. Let us see what she nails when we get to the third timing point, our third checkpoint here. Her target is a 35.21. Van der Breggen was 23 seconds down on that margin, so we're about a minute and a half away from where she wants to be. We'll be back with her in a few moments' time. We've got a lovely tracing shot here. Gosh, it looks warm, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and it's definitely hotting up here as we're just eagerly anticipating this. It's been just everything that we hoped for today. Antonia Niedermeyer for Germany here, and we've said this, haven't we, but these rides that we're seeing come in now are brilliant rides. But it's just showing of what Royce was put in today.
It's going to be I think she'll be just outside the medals by the time this clock stops, I'm afraid, but it'll be a top 5 for Niedermeyer. And that is a creditable performance by the young German. Here we are, a minute 29, in fact. So good enough, I think, for 5th place as it stands at the moment. Well, you always look back at your performances, and you may well not look at the margins, but a top 10 in the World Championships is always going to be something. Oh, this is a big tie-up on this punishing climb here. And this is where the hurt really starts to kick in. 1,300 metres, as you can see, with an average of 6.3%. She looks to me to be on an even steeper approach just to this 11%. Finally gets a bit of traction pushing on it. I think she's possibly a little bit closer than the 1.9 is indicated here, because it's 1,300 metres. And clearly this is a very steep section.
Exactly that, because we look a lot at the percentage and what it averages out at, but not always what it peaks at. And you can see there that she was approaching that 11% section. And I think when we started to see that earlier on today, we realised the pressure that is keeping on the riders right until that finish line, which is why you can never say it's over. Vollering, heart on sleeve, always fights for the victory with everything she can dedicate and throw at a ride.
Third quickest in that checkpoint, and a 36-second margin, so she sits behind Anna van der Breggen. That will, I am sure, be one of her primary targets, essentially. She wants to get in the medals, but that's a big retrieval to try and find what Royce did. Every single time we came, Royce, every time we came to the splits, I was thinking, surely this must have faded. And when I saw Royce's time between checkpoint 2 and checkpoint 3 had indeed moderated, she dropped 5 seconds to Van der Breggen. But to then turn that round, turn around a 23-second advantage and actually make it a 51-second advantage at the end, that showed you just how much she was able to pour onto the latter part of the course. And you can see from what's on your screen at the moment how difficult that is. The boost comes to the line shortly. She's still got that sort of hellish finale to deal with. And it's almost Heartbreak Hotel here, because every time you think, oh, the finish line is just ahead of us, no, there's still this pesky dish to deal with. Best served cold for some. There we are, 6 quickest out of the top 5, and just a handful of seconds, just a couple of seconds off that top 5 coveted position. It's a cool game, this.
It's really cool, and still, again, a really solid ride there. And I think today I've talked about that unpredictability, because you can compare with previous World Championships, can't you, in terms of what is the elevation gain, but where that sits, where that comes, what the road surface is, what the altitude is, the air condition, it all plays a part on the day, and these riders are human, and we're seeing that now with Diget.
Seeing the tops of the trees just nod a little bit, unlike the riders, I guess you might say, as they try and take on this peak. But well protected is the course. In fact, it's been almost equal conditions for everybody, possibly a couple of degrees change in temperature. Anderson on this power section of the course at the moment, but throwing in the climbs has, I don't think it's diminished this time trial at all. I think it's enhanced it. It's made it absolutely fascinating how they've coped.
Yeah, the climbs have been really prominent, and it's easy to write off an elevation saying, you know, these riders will make like work of it, but we've evidently seen that's not been the case today. It's been absolutely brutal, and Royce has just perfected it better than anybody else by far.
Anderson is coming to the finish here, and not going to beat Royce because the clock has already turned red, but I think she's going to be thinking about a bronze medal position potentially. Let us see. Can't quite see on the course. This is a tight shot as to where she is. Here we are. Rainbow barriers right now, but she's still going to go into the pesky saucer. Over the top. It's
so well described as a saucer, but it's really tough, and just when we, never mind the rider, just when we think they're coming into sight of that finish line, there's still a really big push, and when every second and split second counts, that's what it takes to keep pushing to the line, and this has been a really tough effort today.
Out of the saddle, back into it, out of the saddle again, into the dip, over the crest. Final couple of curves. There is that really gnarly, nasty, almost punishing, cruel, let's say, finale to this course. I mean, it's fabulous entertainment for us, but this is about top 10 positions for Anna Henderson at the moment. Let's see where she sits. 7th place for now, minute 37 down, but what a ride that was.
Yeah, she'll be disappointed as she threw everything into getting a top 3 today, but ultimately on reflection, I think she'll see what a strong ride that was.
Well, that spittle-laced chin tells you everything you need to know about what's required today. That was brilliant by Anna Henderson, finishing in 7th place, but Royce is our leader. And look at the margin, 51.89. And then look how many are encamped within a 10-second boundary of that bronze medal. It is really tough. It was designed to be so. And the Nyungwe National Park here with its absolutely beautiful mists, gorillas in the mists, you might say. Well, we've got cycling beasts here as well that are doing a phenomenal job, and let us enjoy it, shall we, because this is for our entertainment, and for some it's for their sufferance, I'm afraid. 1,200 metres for Chloe Duggett to get home. At the 3rd split, she had already given away 1 minute and 12, and this looks like a task too far.
Chloe Duggett came in with a lot of pressure on her today for the USA. Such a big favourite and such a dedicated rider that absolutely leaves everything out there. And again, you know, we've seen brilliant rides, but Royce has set such a huge benchmark, and it's been so tough out there with all the different conditions, the elements. It's been a really hard day in the saddle, but yeah, Duggett brings class to this peloton, and she's still done that today.
She certainly has. Vollering will close out this amazing women's time trial here at the Road World Championships. We are in Kigali, Rwanda, and we know, I think, now that our champion is going to be Maren Royce. What a performance. They've pushed hard. Van der Breggen, second at that 3rd timing point. Vollering was a further 13 seconds down on her compatriot, and I don't think that's turnaroundable, if indeed that is even a word. And how do you find the words to describe what the athletes have provided for us today? It's been magnificent.
It is really tough to find the right words, isn't it? As Demi Vollering just exits that cobbled section onto the smooth tarmac. We thought maybe when riders reached that smooth tarmac, it would be not a respite, because it never is in a T2, but it might ease up a bit. But as you can see, as Chloe Dyack comes in for the USA here, just how brutal it is, how much the riders are having to push to that line. They always do push everything to the line, but this is not an easy run-in, and it's been brutal today.
And this is where the cruelty starts, as we say. This is not the finish line. It's still a corner to be taken, another rise. And then, of course, the guillotine does fall when the clock stops. She is looking for a top 10. I think she is potentially going to get it. But let's have a look. Chloe Dyack stops the clock here. 8th place for now with a 2:25. Which means she does get a top 10. I think she'll finish 9th for this discipline. She'll be disappointed with that. And indeed, drawing proceedings to a close will be a very brave Demi Vollering as well. Chloe Dyack has already, bronze it was last year, but she's already closed her account for today at least. What can Vollering achieve? Let us wait and see. She is gunning for a medal at the moment. Marlene Reusser is indeed in the champion spot. She is our champion already, because the clock is red here against Vollering. But can she possibly finish? A target for silver is 51.89. I don't think she's going to get there. It's going to be a bronze medal, I believe, for Demi Vollering here. 2 medals, of course, for the Netherlands. That will mean, and is it going to be even crueler than that? Let's wait and see. This is the closeout of proceedings here at the Worlds. She knows what's required. She's out of the saddle, driving for the line, and she'll stop it for a bronze medal behind Anna van der Breggen, who takes silver. And the Swiss world champion is Marlene Reusser, after one of the most incredible rides we have seen on a time trial machine. What a day of racing we have had.
A lot of riders came in today saying, I'm not quite sure what I can expect from myself on this course, on the day. But there's one rider that came in and said, yeah, my preparations have gone well, and that was Marlene Reusser, and she delivered.
Marlene Reusser is a world champion. I can't tell you how much pleasure that gives me just to say it. And look at the margin over the great Anna van der Breggen, who herself doing an amazing thing, coming out of retirement to get a silver medal here at the Worlds. A 51.89 was the margin. That shows you the Swiss dominance here. 2 from the Netherlands on the podium, with Demi Vollering closing us out here. A deficit of 1:04. No shame in that when you realise what Marlene Reusser has achieved here. Brodie Chapman in 4th place, just out of the medals by a margin of 16 seconds. Katrien Ellerud bags a top 5 spot, finishing 4 seconds behind Brodie Chapman. Another 5-second margin to Antonia Niedermeyer. Then Juliette Labousse, brave it was for 7th place. Fabulous performance by Anna Henderson to finish 8th, ahead of Chloe Dyack. And Mirella Benito, it is, from Spain, that rounds out the top 10 on this, the first ever World Championship elite time trial in Africa. Thank you, Kigali. Thank you, Rwanda. Thank you, the UCI, for an amazing race.